ODM leader Raila Odinga has promised Nyeri workers goodies if elected president in August. Accompanied by more than 10 political leaders from the region, Raila promised to use the foundation stones laid by Kibaki and his successor Uhuru Kenyatta to build a modern country.
Hii mambo ya Thika Highway ilikuwa na moja miradi tulianzisha. Mimi nikawa waziri wa barabara na ujenzi, ilichorwa kama chini ya usimamizi yangu. Thika Highway na zile bypasses ya Nairobi kwa inakuja mpaka hapa nini Marua. Ile ilikuwa ni safu ya kwanza. Sasa Uhuru akakuja akafuata nyayo ya Kibaki. Hiyo sasa natengenezwa na kuja hapa Marua. Itatoka hapa tutapeleka mpaka pite Nyanyuki mpaka shikane kule Moyali.
Raila spent the night in Nyeri after the burial of Kibaki in what he told residents was in honor of the former president whom he worked closely with. President Uhuru Kenyatta has read the riot act to petroleum industry players for causing a major fuel shortage last month. The president, in his last Labour Day speech in Nairobi, warned oil marketing companies that the government would not hesitate to penalise any of them found culpable of offences that resulted in great uncertainty in the market. The shortage, the worst of which was experienced in the first 2 weeks of April, has been blamed on oil marketers diverting petroleum products to neighbouring countries. Supply appeared to have normalised 2 weeks ago, but many retail outlets have continued to report inadequate stocks, running out from time to time, and motorists remain jittery. That's your news. My name is Stephanie Wangari.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country. And I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we're calling it Huduma Namba the Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it and should be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up.
I totally believe live transmission of results and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Tuesday morning and it's Monday. It's Monday morning and let's take a look at what's happening on the streets today. The 2nd of May, everybody's home again, another holiday, but the roads are not looking too bad. You'll be able to get where you're going really quickly. No traffic anywhere at the moment. Coming off Mombasa Road, north, south, east or west, wherever you are this morning, you shouldn't have too much of an issue getting out and about. There's also the temptation to go a little quicker than you ought to. Please don't do that because then we might get in a spot of trouble and we don't want to do that, especially not on a holiday. All right, let us know where you might be stuck this morning. I don't think that'll be the situation. Or let us know what the streets look like if you're out and about this morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. This machine. Somebody needs to log in.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
So what are we saying now? It's Eid Mubarak.
It depends really.
Depends on what?
Well, it depends not so much on whether the moon has been sighted or not. It depends on whether you're a Sunni or a Shia.
Well, the Chief Qadi has declared that the moon has been sighted.
He's not Chief Qadi for all Muslims. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
There's no one who has argued. No one is going independent.
Then what it means is that those who actually simply count the days, 1, 2, 3, 30, it has coincided also. So the moon has coincided with the 30 days. So there is no quarrel.
Okay.
Yes, that's really what I'm saying.
So in those days, wherever it is, somebody somewhere in the world is celebrating Eid. So is it Eid Mubarak? Now answer my question.
We can decide that going with the Chief Qadi's edict, following the spiritual leaders leading, we could say yes, Eid Mubarak.
Okay. So Eid Mubarak, City.
And to you as well.
Ndu?
Sir.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Good morning, sir.
Very well, thank you. How was your Labor Day?
It's not today.
It was yesterday.
Yesterday. Fine, thank you.
Uliongezewa basic salary.
me.
Yes. Your basic salary was increased by 12%.
That's very interesting. Whose basic salary?
See, workers.
Are you a worker?
I'm working in the army of the Lord.
Okay. Your basic salary is up by 12%.
Hallelujah.
The only thing that needs to happen, you need a swift transfer to, given your current employer's board. It probably needs to go up there before it comes down here.
Go fine, thank you.
Mimi niko sawa kabisa. Yeah.
That's good.
Yes. Glad to be here. Happy to be here.
I'm very happy to see that you're happy. It warms my heart to see that the gladness is in you.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, everybody. So we know what the president was saying yesterday. Very many things. Taking pride that government workers never got a pay cut. This government was able to pay its workers, even during the worst of the worst times, unlike the private sector, which was just not paying its work. Yeah, and I don't know, shutting down and saying they're unable to do
salaries by 30%.
Saying they're unable to do business, so they're shutting down. What's wrong with the private sector? Can't they just collect tax and keep and stay in operation? Keep it here for more conversations coming up. Today, we want to have a conversation with this gentleman is from the independent petroleum dealers. And what are they called? Their proper name. Their proper name. You tell me their proper name. Their proper name is the Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya. Their chairman, Martin Chomba, will be here with us today as we'll be talking about the several directives by the government. Number one is that they're now going to get direct allocation of fuel straight from what arrives in the country to them, and bypassing this hopeless position that they've been in where they have to buy from the big boys, and when the big boys decide we're not selling to small boys, they suffer. And it ends up now starving vast parts of this country. So he'll be with us here this morning, Martin Chomba, to tell us about the petroleum market, even explain to us this investments by the small dealers. Who are they? What kind of money do they put into this business? And how easy or difficult is it for them to operate? Conversation at 8, plus more conversations and opening up the phone line for you to talk to us this morning. We know that there is still the issue of COVID and COVID numbers in the country. And the Ministry of Health has not relented at all in letting us know exactly what happens on a daily basis.
Okay, let me start with telling you what's happening with world numbers. 513 million is what we're looking at right now. Just hold on, I'm trying to get my wits about. 513,593,145. That's what the world is looking at now in terms of numbers. Now the world has realized 6,261,727 deaths from COVID. The numbers per country still pretty high. The United States at 83 million. Well over 1 million deaths from COVID. Even if we are looking at the world talking about China, every minute, I just want to look at what's happening. China, 217,000 cases, vis-a-vis 83 million cases in the United States. And, of course, them being the starters of this conversation, asking questions in terms of what is happening in the country. All right, let's look at what's going on in Kenya. 13 new cases from a sample size of 2,254. Slightly higher positivity rate now, 0.6%. But, of course, we're looking at the numbers in terms of what was tested and what was found. Still very low numbers. Many have said, you know what, COVID is a thing of the past in the country now. And we're seeing very few cases. All of these cases asymptomatic, really. Nobody is suffering from the symptoms, as it were. That's what we're looking at in terms of COVID.
We hope that this is the new normal for us. Like our positivity rate will always remain like this low, and
sure,
even when it rises, it's asymptomatic or mild cases.
Can I tell you something else really quickly?
But is that a certainty, really?
I'm saying that we hope that that will be our portion.
No, I should have started by saying I agree with you, and you put it well. Then I have said what I said. You see, the problem with these microorganisms is that the constant that they have that we can rely on is that they will mutate. And until I see 3 or 4 other mutations and I understand exactly how it is or the direction that they're taking, I feel this euphoria we have that the worst of COVID is over, I myself am apprehensive about it. Yes.
I think what is going to happen, just looking at from all indications, whether we're looking at here or looking at the rest of the world, is that we're going to have a situation akin to what happens with the flu in the US and the Western Hemisphere. That you will have a time where you have, an upsurge in cases, because we have people in the United States, for example, today who still die of the flu, right? There still is the call every year, come out and get your flu shots at the beginning of winter. Come out in November, December, get your flu shots for the year. You have 88% of the United States population getting the flu jab every year. And I think that's what we're going to see now, that, it might be just hanging out in community, get your shot, and we move.
I think it'll be one of those.
Yeah.
If we look at even the total number of deaths in the country so far, how many? 5,000? So 7?
Total number of deaths, 5,649.
Yeah. I think we'll get to that point where, or we are in that point where, yes, there's COVID, it's one of the diseases in the country, and it's one of the low killers in the country. Anyway, let's take a break. 16 minutes after 6. Are we live streaming?
It will happen.
Yes? Not yet? We are on YouTube. We are on YouTube already at SpiceFM KE. Facebook coming up shortly. If you are online, of course, you know what I do. Say hello to us. We'll be saying hello to you shortly after we take a look at the weather forecast. How's it going to be looking like today in the country? Is it going to be raining or not? 17 minutes after 6.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
The group of leaders we are having now, these are just like the polymers. The chemical composition is the same.
Are you corruptible?
Hopefully not.
And maybe that's part of the problem.
people who have done about 300 speeches and they are not saying anything. What makes you think that they will come in with something really dramatic?
Don't miss out on the latest from Kenya's biggest conversation. SMS TSR to 22840. Standard Group's Farm Kenya initiative is the umbrella entity for all agriculture-related channels, activities and investments. The media platforms under the Farm Kenya initiative include the Smart Harvest Weekly Pullout in the Saturday Standard, KTN Farmers TV, a 24-hour agribusiness TV station, Maisha Kilimo, a weekly agriculture show on Radio Maisha, AgriTalk on SpiceFM's morning show The Situation Room, and Grind na Agribiz on Vibes Radio morning show Morning Vibes. Find us online at www.farmers.co.ke, an integrated website that creates and aggregates agri-content, hosts a digital marketplace, and wide range of agri-data. Other platforms include specialized events such as the annual Mkulima Expo, quarterly Farmers Kenya Breakfast, and dedicated social media platforms at Farm Kenya 254. Farm Kenya, working to secure your growth.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
At 15, highs of 23 and lows of 15. At 14, it's partly cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 24. We'll see highs of 24 as well in a rainy Nyeri this morning at 14, and that'll be today's low. 12 degrees and rain showers in Eldoret, highs of 22 and lows of 12. Partly cloudy conditions in Mombasa, 26, highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 31 as well in a rainy Malindi this morning. It's raining as well in Kisumu at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 18. And we'll see rain showers through the morning in Kakamega as well, currently at 18, highs of 27 and lows of 15. Kampala this morning is raining at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 18. And it's mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam at 25 with highs of 31. We'll see lows of 24. Clear conditions in Johannesburg at 11, highs of 21 and lows of 9. And it's mostly clear in Lagos at 26, highs of 32. 31 will be the high in a clear Kinshasa, currently at 23. Out in Beijing, Monday afternoon, it's 22 and sunny, highs of 26 and lows of 10. And we'll see clear conditions in Paris at 9, highs of 18. 17 will be the high in a cloudy London at 10. And it's raining in New York Sunday night at 12 degrees. We'll see highs of 19 and lows of 11.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
It is 21
Nairobi.
minutes after 6. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Can you see people being online?
I can see people being online. Your English this morning is impeccable.
Completely.
Kwa hivyo, Andrew Franklin says, good morning, happy Labor Day, happy Eid, both on the 2nd of May by order of the GOK. And tomorrow, Working Nation. You'll be shocked. Tomorrow. He says, good morning. You've been told before that the 3rd of May has been gazetted as a public holiday. And then now in between there, you want to change when people have switched off. Omo, you find yourself alone. Wagige, that's where Chenonge Esau is tuned in from, in Kiambu County. Happy new month, Evelyn. Oh, by the way, it is a new month. Evelyn Kavaya says good morning. And Chris says hello. He's tuned in this morning from Gong. Timboroa, another place where the weather is freezing and nice. Junior says good morning. That's where he's tuned in from this morning. And Hebson is tuned in from Kitale. Bay is tuning from Machakos, locked in from Kitale in Birunda. That's where Willie Bazoo is. And Dominic Cheriot says Kaptarakwa. Good morning. That's where he's tuned in as well. And a bunch of other folks tuned in this morning. We see you and we say thank you for joining us. Karibuni sana.
Everybody, Eid Mubarak. City?
Yes.
Hiyo kitu.
Right. Today, we are in the Central African Republic.
CAR.
CAR. Okay. When a monkey climbs a tree, its bottom becomes more exposed the higher it goes. Let me repeat it. When a monkey climbs a tree, its bottom becomes more exposed the higher it goes.
It's true.
Okay. So what are they saying, these Africans?
They were saying that when a monkey climbs a tree, as it keeps going up, and you look up, what you're more likely to see as it's going up is its bottom together with its legs. Yes.
You'll see its bottom, but the monkeys keep seeing where it's going.
The monkey sees where it's going, you are looking at the bottom.
So the bottom is exposed to the human down
To
here.
those who are looking up and looking at the monkey. If you are not looking up at the monkey, you will not see the bottom. But also, if, let's say, perchance, all you are doing was looking up a tree and admiring the leaves and the branches and the twigs, etc., 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 and there was a monkey climbing, perchance also, your eyes may also see the bottom of a monkey, together with the legs as it is climbing.
It becomes more and more exposed the higher it climbs.
Yes. If the monkey is at the same level as your eye, if you're looking straight, you will see the body of the monkey in its totality. But as it goes up, the body is obscured by the leaves. And the truth of the matter is that what is in your immediate line of vision will be, as I said, the legs and the bottom.
Okay.
So much as we like using this phrase, the elephant in the room, perhaps in Central African Republic, it's the bottom in the trees.
The bottom in the trees.
You're not all right.
Okay, let's look at the newspaper headlines. Remember, you can become an active member of our online community by visiting our website, www.standardmedia.co.ke. Premium content online, including what veteran journalists have said about the former president, Mwai Kibaki, who was laid to rest on Saturday. Veteran journalist on Kibaki, editors take critical look at the Kibaki presidency, and there's even video content there, so you can go read and watch what they've been saying. What's in the papers, Ndu?
Quite a lot. We know that there were some goodies that were passed over to folks yesterday, Labour Day announcement from the president of 12% increase on the minimum wage. I will look at that a little bit further. But something a little interesting, which is a subhead on the front page of The Nation. Hunger in the north is still a really big issue. We may ignore it or forget about it, but it's really serious. Only food relief can save lives now in the scorched counties of Marsabit, Wajir, Turkana, Samburu and Isiolo, where failed rains have consigned hundreds of thousands to a biting famine. Just in case you forgot that is still going on, it's carried on page 14, and just looking at details of that, where so many other things have been happening, folks are really in dire need of food. It's 11 a.m. Thursday, April 14th. More than 100 residents arrive at Eldoret Chief's Camp in North Turkana, full of anticipation. While men sit on their stools, mothers sit on the hot sand as some try to comfort their wailing, sweating, hungry and thirsty babies. Some have carried jerrycans hoping to get water. There's a gentleman called Bulo Marsa. He's here hoping to get relief. Rather, she is here hoping to get relief food for her 3 children with no education. She has a fair grasp of Swahili, so she narrates her story. She was married at 17 and depends solely on her husband for food. He in turn depends on livestock, most of which have died in the drought. When livestock were in good health and in plenty, her husband would sell them at a market in Ethiopia. My eldest child is 8 years old, the second is 7, and the youngest is 3. Because of lack of food, I had to wean him early. We no longer have livestock, save for a few goats, so I have resorted to fetching and selling water or firewood to buy food. We sleep hungry at least twice a week. Whenever I get some money, I buy flour and make very thick porridge for breakfast, then ensure there's some left for supper. If it's not enough, I let the children have it for supper, then prepare strong tea for myself, or I sleep hungry. She says she never got enough money through the cash transfer program. Rather, she never got money through the cash transfer program set up by the government, even though she was registered. She explains that most of the men and women at the camp have travelled far with their livestock to look for pasture, and they had to return when their animals died. Budo says people have also died from hunger, not sickness, not hunger. They were too hungry and the body gave up. Lenges, her friend and neighbor, is among them. She was buried on the 1st of February following her death, which left Linga Lenges a widower. Their children left home to fend for themselves. The 50-year-old's eyes glisten with grief as he narrates how he was unable to get enough food for the love of his life in her last days. He's wearing an orange blazer, the only thing he has left of his wife. Before my wife died, she had slept or stayed hungry for a week. Obviously, so had he. And even when I went to beg for food from neighbors, it was never enough. On the day she died, we were together in the house, and I watched her breathe her last. He said, I have no wife to care for me. The drought is still here, and I sometimes have to go to people's houses to beg for food. Sometimes my neighbors sympathize with me and invite me for a meal. Since her death, I have been unable to sleep. I wish I too could die. There is a crisis in the north. 7 counties in the alarm phase of drought. According to the Drought and Food Security Report released on the 3rd of April, 7 counties, including Marsabit, Samburu, Turkana, Wajir, Baringo, Isiolo, and Mandera, have been worst hit by the drought and are in the alarm phase. The report added that 10 others, Kwale, Kitui, Garissa, Meru, North, Nyeri, which is Kieni, Laikipia, Lamu, Laikipia, Kilifi, and West Pokot counties are at the alert phase. So things are really, really thick. In terms of an end in sight, there is none. In terms of relief food, it's dwindling. In terms of what we know is going to happen, we don't. The situation is not good at all.
So are they getting relief food from government, and how often are they?
So according to this report, and just another one that I'd been able to look at a couple of days ago, is that there had been relief food that was coming in. Now, in terms of the regularity and the quantity, that has reduced significantly over the last 6 weeks. Is there a hope? We have not. So there was 2 billion that was set aside by government, and we saw that there was the release. We saw from the government spokesman that there was release of the food now going into these, at least the first 7 that are in the alarm stage. The others that are in the alert stage, not so much. But has that kept up in terms of tempo? No, it has not. It has reduced, if anything. People have gone to their centers where they previously would get food and lined up to get, and have lined up for days sometimes and not gotten anything.
So basically we're talking about a forgotten people.
Yes.
Right?
This is it.
When we talk about everything else, and there's a lot of pressure and conversation and blah, this and the other, there's, a group of people who we just assume, there's some people who don't have food.
And that's about it.
We are releasing the food. It goes, it arrives in good time. It doesn't arrive in good time. The food is coming.
It doesn't matter. Do we need to do it again? We don't really think about it. Do we need to ask a little bit more? Maybe a government impressed so that some more money is released so we get some more food. Okay, well, we'll get to it. Or when we remember it. So maybe this ought to be done. Kind of like how you think, all right, I need to clean that downstairs cupboard. Okay, maybe I'll get to it next month. That's it. That's how we are dealing with hundreds of thousands of people who are in need of food today. Just imagine for a moment watching somebody breathe their last from hunger. They have died from hunger. They've not died from disease. They've not died from any kind of other illness. They were not hit by a truck. Their body had no more strength because they had not eaten. The person who is watching her die is in just as dire a state as she is. Yeah, because they're living in the same house. She hasn't eaten. He hasn't eaten either. But by some good graces, has a little bit more strength to keep going. How many more stories are there amongst these?
This is primarily the responsibility of the government.
Yep.
It is. We can say whatever we want to say.
Well-wishers may come in and do what it is that they can, but think about it. Despite the trials and tribulations that people have gone through, courtesy of COVID, Kenyans, out of their meager resources, have still been giving. But somehow, whatever assistance we are told the government is giving, you don't hear of a significant reduction in the suffering of these fellow Kenyans. You don't. What you keep hearing of is more and more trouble and tribulation. So you actually ask, when money is allocated and we are told food and we see the optics, a few pictures of people distributing, does this really get to the people who need it?
It doesn't. What did this lady say in the beginning of this story, this Ludo? She said, I was registered for the cash transfer program. And what we understood from government in the very beginning was that you register for the program, you get the money. You do. It's not, are you applying? No. You register, you're on the list, you get the money. She's never gotten it. We saw when Eric was almost crying here another day, when he was asking the question, How do we say that there was money specially put aside, for example, for physically challenged people in this time, and the money doesn't get to them? How
And
much
money
more
was put
people who are in a
aside.
drought area, because they were in the same. They were in the same bracket. Physically challenged, drought stricken. They were in the same bracket. How does it not get to them? How does it? People who went to look for pasture, they've gone to look for pasture. The livestock have died. They've returned.
And what about those? I don't know.
It's a sad one. But also, the worst part of this is when you see the two national leaders going on a public spat about, oh, did you let me work alone? Oh, it's because you didn't allow me to help you. Oh, because it's, people who collectively are financed to a tune of close to 10 billion shillings by taxpayers. And we're looking for 6 billion shillings to feed people.
And you gave them 2 billion. You released.
And you gave them
you released 2 billion once.
You told
once.
us
You released 2
you
billion
told
once.
us you released 2 billion.
And it was once.
Yes, and also typical of government, you did not give us an understanding of how this 2 billion was spent. They never do. A blanket statement is made about the amounts, and that's supposed to cover.
That's it.
Yes.
Let's take a break. 26 minutes to 7, Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, we have a lot to talk about today, including reminding you, we are talking about people not having access to water. Can we help one another? Just go to a Naivas supermarket, buy Colgate. And when you buy Colgate, 10 bob will go towards what?
Towards sinking new water wells, 30 more. 90 have been sunk around the country, looking to sink 30 more. So Colgate, in partnership with Wellboring, is looking to have 120,000 more Kenyans access clean drinking water that can obviously be used for drinking and cooking and things like this in schools, in homes, across board. So if you buy Colgate at any Naivas supermarket today, 10 shillings goes towards making sure that this becomes a reality for Kenyans.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Nothing much happening on these streets this morning. Just a little bit of a nook there as you're getting from Mombasa Road out towards North Airport Road. A little bit there, but really nothing to cry about. Langata Road that we normally see traffic on. Jogger Road, absolutely nothing there. And you'll be all right. A little bit here and there also on the Thika Superhighway, just around Survey, that junction there. But apart from that, it's free and clear. Shouldn't have a problem today with traffic whatsoever. In case you do, talk to us on SpiceFM, KE on Twitter, text 40127. Let's keep things moving this Monday.
SpiceFM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, in the papers today, there's
Mornings
stories about
done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Labor Day speech, and then there's also still a spillover of tributes to the former president Mwai Kibaki, and what he stood for and what he represented, and there's something here that was interesting. That President Uhuru Kenyatta extolled his administration's achievement for workers. He at the same time praised Kenyans abroad, whose remittances have increased by more than 250 billion shillings since 2013. The president says remittances from Kenyan workers abroad stands at 375 billion shillings annually, compared to 117 billion when he took office. He says the Kenyan worker has transformed to be among the most skilled in the world, referencing on statistics by global agencies like the World Bank. The World Bank, for instance, has indicated that Kenya will have the most productive workforce on the African continent by 2036. That's just in about, 14 years?
Yeah.
If we continue on our trajectory. This year's theme of political change for industrial peace, stability and job creation was the theme for this year's Labor Day. He said excellence. This excellence as documented by such apex bodies is not only being felt in Kenya but also internationally. Yes. So all these things that we've said, Kenyans are the biggest foreign exchange earner for Kenya. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at remittances of 375 billion shillings, they are head and neck above everything else, above tea, above horticulture, above floriculture, above coffee. And how much effort has been put to develop this product called Diaspora? That's the question that we ask. We put in a lot of effort in developing tea and, seeing how we can streamline getting our tea, producing our tea, taking it to the market. Same thing we do with our flowers, getting our tea, blah, 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 taking it to the market. How much effort are we putting in diaspora affairs?
I'm happy you mentioned tea. And the effort that we put into that sector is inadequate. Because the one thing that those who are in that sector have complained about is the value addition. The same with those who are in the coffee sector. You see, flowers, the value addition is just taking them abroad. They don't have to become more flowers when they get wherever they're going. They're already flowers anyway. But when you talk about the remittances, you're talking about human resource. Now, the question that would ask is, of the people who go abroad to live, to work there, how many of them get there because of government support, or how many of them get there because of individual support? Individual here means the individuals supported by their families and their friends, but not the government. Once upon a time, people went abroad and it was predominantly government support. Is that the case now? The answer is resoundingly no.
No.
Okay. Now, that your human resource. Remember the discussion we had not too long ago about our workers who go to the Middle East. Okay? And then, not long after, we had an argument about, or not a discussion about, well, we turned into an argument, about health workers who are being taken to the UK. Now, around that particular, or those two stories, a conclusion has not been arrived at, even as we speak. That entire discussion was suspended. There were issues. Whether they were resolved
or not,
we don't know.
Yeah.
Now, if on those two fronts, where you have a large number of people going to not look for jobs, going to places where jobs are available, and the government support isn't concretized, you don't find or you don't hear of a clear system of how this thing is done, then the question that we asked at the beginning, Eric, is becomes pertinent. What is the government doing? Now, I dare say that what it's looking like is that the government is taking credit for the good fortune it's receiving for things it hasn't done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing that the government has put in place.
No.
People are sending money home because
to their families.
People are sending money to their families.
Yes.
All right? How much of that are you facilitating? For example, do we have financial institutions that have been established with the support of the Kenyan government that can also support in the remittances? How much money goes in terms of just transfer fees?
Hey, man, it's a lot of money, man.
When you're talking about 317 billion shillings, how much of it is left?
How much support is there given, for example, for these monies that are sent back home and folks want to invest, for example? You want to invest in real estate, you want to invest in agriculture. If anything, there's a bit of a stifling of it. If we, from anything that we've seen or heard in the recent 5 years, is that there's a stifling of it, that folks are now asking, what's the source of this income? What's the source of this money? And in terms of support for you to be able to then get that investment on the road, it's more pain than good. So, and then you're absolutely right. The government had no part to play whatsoever in this money that's being sent back. It's money that you go, you work wherever you are, you send to your family or you send to your agent or whomever to invest for you. Where did the government have, even getting you to go there in the first place? Was it a government scholarship that you got? Was it a government placement, that there was an agreement between governments? Was it that allowed you to go? Was there an airlift of some sort? No, there wasn't. So I think it's interesting to ask the question then, can government really claim, can you claim the credit for this?
And I think the bigger thing is, let's forget about the Uhuru administration. It's gone. The next government should actually put in place a proper office for diaspora affairs. Not having, a director for communication and diaspora and digital affairs, and that's it. Should have a proper office for diaspora affairs. Proper office that looks at okay, what kind of financial support is required in this, in terms of just getting these remittances back home? What kind of information do the people in the diaspora need? You know, where you can walk in or where you can log into a platform and you know, this is what's happening, this is where I can put in my money, this is what information I require, this is how I can get access to the consulate or the embassy. What kind of support do they need? How many more people, if we are going to be, in 14 years' time, we're going to have the most productive human workforce on the African continent, what are we doing to prepare for that? To place them in all these working places, not just in Europe and Asia and America, but also within Africa.
If you consider, Eric, just for a single second, and you look at the preponderance of learning institutions and the expansion of the education sector, two presidents get credit for it. Moi, Kibaki. I say this because if you look at where we started off with the expansion of schools and also of opening up of the learning space, it began in the Moi era. But Kibaki expanded it further. If you look at just the charters that were given to private universities. Now, the moment you have people getting, more and more people getting higher education, what you then have is a far better trained workforce.
Right.
Now, something inadvertent also happens. It began in the Moi era, partly Kenyatta maybe, but Moi more so, when there was a massive exodus of people from the country. And the exodus was because they feared for their lives. Quite simply that. But thereafter, the moment you had many people who were educated and couldn't get jobs, the next thing they did was to move out of the country and look for opportunities elsewhere. Some went to study and just simply didn't come back. Now, when you have a population of industrious people such as these, should you then as a government not consider how best, beyond just taking credit for what these people have done, lay foundations and structures that these people can benefit from? Look at any product that we've had in this country which has been referred to as a foreign exchange earner. Take, for instance, tourism. How many bodies do we have that function?
Exactly. For marketing tourism, for investing in tourism.
How many? How many? Look at, say, something like flowers, for instance. Look at the bodies that are there to help. Look at tea. Look at coffee. Then you have diaspora now, the highest foreign exchange earner. What do you have to structure, streamline, and ensure that you derive the most possible benefits for people who want to go out and people who are already remitting? What do we have?
Hakuna.
Precisely.
It's just a desk.
A desk.
At the Foreign Affairs Ministry.
Now, does that not tell you the thinking of the people we have in charge of our government?
Yep. And if they look at the areas where this money is coming from, what more investment are they putting? Anyway, let's just talk about something else. What are you looking at in the papers?
You know, some things can be depressing.
Sana.
Can really be depressing. Page 6 of the Standard. What president's 12% hike gift means to low wage earners? Okay?
Yeah.
Right. The rise is very simply this. I was going to go into a treatise on trying to break it down and that, but very simply this. If you get 100%, let's talk about 100% pay rise. What's the lowest salary that somebody earns in this country?
Lowest salary
taxable.
is this?
Lowest taxable.
Lowest taxable?
Yes.
Is 24,000.
24,000.
Yes. All right. Let's say you get 100% pay rise. So you're now at 48. All right? Now, with 48,000, are we saying then that you will be able to do more than what you're doing now? Or are we saying that what you'll have done is given the government an opportunity to get more money from you?
Both.
Precisely. And there's a third element. What then will you be able to buy with this supposedly more money? Because that increase doesn't make any specific benefit to you unless you're telling me that the increase is more than the rise of inflation within the country. Meaning, is that shilling that you're getting extra in addition to what you got, is it able to buy you more than the previous shilling? what economists normally argue is that when the supply of any commodity isn't high enough, and yet the demand is high, what then happens is that the value and the cost of that commodity rises. So what do you think happens when you keep raising the income, and yet the thing that they need most is to be able to, not to have more money, they need to have this money of theirs having more value so that whatever it is they're getting, they can buy more.
So how do you strike the balance? Because the fact of the matter is that a worker who has not received any pay rise of the last 3 years is actually spending much more and buying much less.
Yes.
How do you strike that balance? If you do not increase their purchasing power, because the goods have gone up, because of whatever factors, both local and external factors.
You're very right.
So what do you do to this worker who has been earning, let's say, 11,000 shillings?
Actually, that's why I started off by saying, let's say, for instance, they get 100%. 12% is a waste of time. Give them 50%. 50%, it is a sizable amount of money that can actually make a definite change in their lives. 10%, 12%, 20%.
Not sufficient.
No, it's completely inadequate, not insufficient. It's inadequate. Somebody is earning 24,000 shillings. All right? Let's say that is the net, just for purposes of discussion. Okay. Now, this 24,000, what is 10% of 24,000? 2,400.
Yes.
All right? Now, 2,400 shillings in addition to your money.
But City.
Yes.
City. What was announced yesterday? Was it a pay rise or was it a rise in the minimum pay?
No. Actually, I understand what it is that they said.
Because the 24,000 guy is not going to get to a 12% pay rise.
The reason why I'm going about this is this. It's deliberate, Eric. Whether you say that those who were earning 3,000 shillings are now going to earn 6,000, all right? For them, it would make sense if they were earning 3 and they now earn 6, or they earn 5. If the really minimum, you're talking about house help, you're talking about manual laborers, they earn something like around, in a month, 4,000. 3,500 to 4,000.
Which is illegal.
I'm trying to, but this is the reality. That's what they earn.
Yes, which is illegal.
Very few people.
That is now what the problem. That's what the issue is,
and that's what I'm saying.
That they'll take you to court and say the minimum that you should be paying me is 11,000.
Now, and I'm trying to say that it should not be 11,000. I'm saying it should be more, because that money that you're talking about doesn't change their lives. That amount, the increase they're talking about, I started off with the pay rise because that is what most employers focus on. You talk about minimum wage. You think the government doesn't know what people are being paid. They do know. And one could argue that that is why they've raised it. And I'm still saying that amount is insufficient. It doesn't cut it. It doesn't help change someone's life.
So your argument, CT, is that this minimum wage actually should be more?
Precisely.
Oh, okay.
Infinitely more.
Kotu wanted 24%, 23%.
No, 50. 50.
So 50% more of what it currently
minimum.
So 50. You say the lowest earning person in this country should be earning 25k.
That one will make a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
That will make a lot of sense. Then,
but you have not said that the person who was earning 25,000 shillings should now earn 50.
No.
You're only saying
there are two arguments.
The least amount of money anybody working in this country should be earning 25,000.
Yes. My thoughts exactly.
Okay.
Oh yeah. The majority of the people in this country earn between 24,000 and 50,000.
Yes, they do.
That's a bulk of the workers.
And that's why they're called middle class.
And those are the ones that pay the 11,000 shillings that are supposed to be paying, the domestic worker, blah, blah, blah. 11,000 shillings, they end up paying 4,000, Bob.
3,500.
3,500. All right. And security is same.
Because surely, if somebody's earning 25,000 shillings,
how do you pay 11,000
to the domestic worker?
You want to give your domestic worker half your salary?
Yeah, then you're left with 14,000 to cater for rent and buy food and send your children to school and buy all those other things that you need to do.
Now,
then still get yourself to work.
Do you understand why I'm saying the 50% increment? Did you understand why I'm saying it? You see, the arithmetic will not add up with what is being proposed. It doesn't matter.
There's no way you can
It will not add up.
If you've put rules there and said that your domestic worker, your farmhand, your etc. should earn 11,000 bob a month, then it's absolutely necessary that you are earning maybe at least 3 times that, so it enables you to do that. And the person or the people who should make that possible is same government.
You know, some of these things sounded and would have been very possible if certain things were a constant. For instance, if in every place that people live in large numbers, there were schools in the neighborhood, meaning you just walk 2 steps and there's a school. Okay? There was a clinic, 3 steps and you walk to the clinic. The issue of these additional costs that we normally refer to with regards to transport would not exist.
So let me ask you, what is, because I think there's a lot of confusion here, what is the actual minimum wage in this country?
Actual. Start from 3.
Official government said minimum wage should be this amount. Look,
this is where it is. It is rising to here. General laborers, including cleaners, sweepers, gardeners, house servants, day watchmen, and messengers in Nairobi, Mombasa, and Kisumu will see their minimum pay rise by 1,629 from the current 13,573 to 15,202. So the minimum wage now goes to 15,000. It was 13,573 and 0 cents.
Read that list of people whose salary minimum wage is now going to 15,000 again.
Sweepers, gardeners, house servants, day watchmen, messengers. A similar group of workers in all former municipalities in Mavoko, Ruiru, Limuru will see their minimum pay rise from 12,523 to 14,026. Those in all other towns will now earn a monthly minimum pay of 8,110 from the current 7,000. So it depends on where you are.
If you are
so we're working with Nairobi guys. Nairobi, if you're a cleaner, you're a sweeper, you're a domestic worker, you are a day watchman, all those, 13,573 was the minimum wage.
Okay.
Wow, how many were earning this?
How
Only
many were
those
actually
informal.
earning this would be interesting to find out.
Yep.
That if employers around, if you look at Nairobi and its dormitory towns, for example, were they all paying this category of staff that 13,600 and what?
No. Okay. So the thing is, the benchmark is set by the formal sector and the unions. So, for instance, all those who are members of KUDEHA, the Kenya Union for Domestic Workers, Hotel, blah, 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 right? All of them. That includes now the sweepers, the domestic workers, the hotel, blah, blah. All those, if you're members of KUDEHA, KUDEHA will come and negotiate for you with your employer that your minimum salary will be that. Now we'll start talking about benefits.
Yes.
Overtime, public holiday, allowance, this and the other. But the minimum will start from that point. Now, many are not members of KUDEHA, because also KUDEHA will not start coming to negotiate with Okoh, the employer. You want to,
but
at
more
least
importantly,
that's why folks can get away with paying people 4,000 bob a month.
Yes.
Yeah.
how much do you think these askaris you see, these very tired-looking, exhausted-looking askaris who open gates for people, how much do you think these people get paid?
I don't even want to think
You think they get paid 13,000 shillings?
Yeah.
If they get 6, they are lucky.
And it's only those now with bigger security companies.
Those ones get paid because those ones need to be compliant. Because the really big companies also seek contracts in bigger organizations who require that sort of compliance. They want to find out.
Yes. The rest of the guys, uko ati ndawo with arungu at your gate.
You can understand even why it says many of those people get so angry with life. There's something they're always annoyed about.
Yes.
You know, the window dressing is all good and well. It's Labour's Day and people must say all sorts of things to placate the worker.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, Narek, you really did get this point right. Huh? The incoming government really must look into ways of making life affordable for the citizens of this country, because people can't afford to live in this country.
No.
I keep telling you, people cannot afford Kenya.
No.
Truth of the matter. People are not affording it. Honestly. And you know, we can, as you said, window dressing and all, it's nice, but the stretching that people have had to do over the last 4 years has not been funny. And people just can't afford life anymore. When you look at all the elements that need to come together in order to get this cycle going, that is not working. It's not working for folks. You put a smile on your face and show up when you need to, but it has become significantly more difficult for people to afford life. So the person who comes in, and we keep saying, the person who comes in, there has to be a reformist agenda of sorts. You have to get to the point where the first thing you do is make sure that people are able to live on a daily basis. Can you eat? Can you sleep? Can you dress? Can you do the basic things first? If you're not doing that, forget about all these other grand and lofty ideas that you have. It won't work.
You know, if the next government doesn't stem this hemorrhaging of public funds, because that's where the losses come in, that's where the problem. And when you say public, it's public at the national level and the county level. Mm-hmm. If indeed we are to believe the figures we've been mentioned, at the sum total of, in Kenya shillings, that contribute to the hemorrhaging, 2 billion a day. Mm-hmm. You tell me, what can you do with 30 billion shillings? 60 billion shillings every month. What can you not do with it?
Imagine.
All these lofty things the government talks about, they become a reality.
It's a lot
very
of
simply.
Things. Yes. It's a lot of things that can happen.
Every time we give an example of something that the government said they would do and they hadn't done, and then we look at what has been done when their minds are put to it, you realize these things can all be done.
It can be done. And I dare say easily so.
Let's talk about this and more in the next hour. We'll also be telling you about Samsung. Okay? There's the new A series, A33, A53 and A73?
73.
Yes. Some serious phones, 5G capacity. Some very good, very, very good cameras. And we'll be telling you more about those and how you can get your selfies, how you can get your photography done, and how you can also trade in your current phone. If you're thinking that, I have, an older version of the Samsung and I'd like to upgrade into this one, it's possible. Just walk into a Samsung shop and we'll give you the details of how you can get that done. Go and upgrade yourself to the new Samsung A series. Very good morning to you. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Wangari and this is Newswire. Muslims from across the globe are celebrating Eid al-Fitr today. Chief Kathi Ahmed made the announcement in Mombasa on Sunday after a crescent moon, which signifies the end of Ramadan, was sighted in different parts of the country. The announcement means that Muslims will hold Eid prayers. Already, the government has declared Tuesday a public holiday to accord the Muslim faithful Eid al-Fitr celebrations. Now, the war of words between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto escalated yesterday when the head of state said his number two should have resigned from government. The president accused Ruto of abdicating his duty and instead spending his time inciting people against him and pointing at the failures in the government.
Wewe unajiita kiongozi na unajiita ati wewe ndio sijui namba ngapi katika nchi ya Kenya. Uko wapi? Badala ya kunisaidia kuondoa hiyo shida, wewe uko kwa soko kusema ulizeni ule. Basi si ungewacha uniwachie mimi nitafute mtu ambaye angenisaidia jameni. Tuambiane ukweli jameni. Mimi wakati unafika lazima watu waambiane ukweli. Wewe unajua hii shida sio ya mtu. Hii ni shida ya uko wapi wakati mimi nakuhitaji? Na ndio mimi nashukuru huyo mzee. Huyo mzee at least hata kama alikuwa na mambo yake alikuja kunisaidia. Na hiyo ndio ukweli wa mambo. Matusi ndio nawaambia. And empty promises take you nowhere.
But immediately after the president's speech, Ruto responded on his social media pages, saying it was people of the president had assigned the roles of the deputy president that had let him down. He, however, claimed he was willing to assist when called upon. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has read the riot act to petroleum industry players for causing a major fuel shortage last month. The president, in his last Labor Day speech in Nairobi, warned oil marketing companies that the government would not hesitate to penalize any of them found culpable of offences that resulted in great uncertainty in the market. The shortage, the worst of which was experienced in the first 2 weeks of April, has been blamed on oil marketers diverting petroleum products to neighbouring countries. Supply appeared to have normalized 2 weeks ago, but many retail outlets have continued to report inadequate stocks running out from time to time, and motorists remain jittery. ODM leader Raila Odinga has promised to Nyeri's residents goodies if elected president in August. Accompanied by more than 10 political leaders from the region, Raila promised to use the foundation stones laid by Kibaki and his successor Uhuru Kenyatta to build a modern country.
Hii mambo ya Thika Highway ilikuwa na moja miradi tulianzisha. Mimi nikawa waziri wa barabara na ujenzi. Ilichorwa kama chini ya usimamizi yangu. Thika Highway na zile bypasses ya Nairobi. Kwa nikuja mpaka hapa nini Marua. Ile ilikuwa ni safu ya kwanza. Sasa Uhuru akakuja akafuata nyayo ya Kibaki. Hiyo sasa natengenezwa na kuja hapa Marua. Itatoka hapa tutapeleka mpaka Piti Nyanyuki mpaka shikane kule Moyali.
Raila spent the night in Nyeri after the burial of Kibaki in what he told the residents was in honor of the former president whom he worked closely with. President Uhuru Kenyatta has ordered the increase of minimum wage by 12% points effective May 1st, 2022. This means a Kenyan worker whose current minimum wage is 13,500 shillings will get 15,120 shillings after the increase. The increase, which comes 4 years since the last review, is aimed at cushioning Kenyan workers from the high cost of living occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. During his final Labor Day speech at Nyeri Stadium on Sunday, the president responded to an earlier request by the Central Organization of Trade Unions Secretary General Francis Atwoli. Atwoli had asked the president to increase the minimum wage by 23.4%, prompting the head of state's response. That's your news at the top of the hour. My name is Stephanie Wangari.
Savor this day because it's one to be remembered. Not much in terms of traffic on the roads this morning, except that little look. Not quite sure what's going on between North Airport Road and Mombasa Road today. A little bit there, just at that junction. I guess it would make sense. All the matatu action there create some traffic, and then heading out towards Outer Ring. You're all right, unless you're taking a drive and want to see what Nairobi looks like at this time without any traffic. That's what probably you would be doing on the streets this morning. Really empty into the CBD again. Very little action. Maybe just a little bit here and there. Kamkunji, even Landis Road today, really clear. Not much of an issue at all. Not likely to see that change through the morning. But let's keep an eye on things just in case. And let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
7 after 7. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It is the second day of... We are back to March. March 2022. Okay? Yes. City has the day's proverb.
I do. Today's proverb is from Central African Republic.
Yeah.
When a monkey climbs a tree, its bottom becomes more exposed the higher it goes.
More exposed, the higher it goes.
Monkey climb tree. Monkey climb tree.
Monkey bottom follow monkey.
Monkey bottom follow monkey. Broader down here, look monkey.
Broader down here, see monkey bottom.
See monkey nyash. I'm trying to just understand. So, what is the meaning of this proverb? What would that meaning be?
There are things about you that people don't really get to know. But when your position is elevated,
until it starts rising,
and you're more in the glare of the public, it then means that you've put yourself in a position for further scrutiny that previously didn't exist. People then want to understand things about it that ordinarily they would never have bothered about.
This is true.
Now they want to know. Now they want explanations.
Nice one. There's a piece written by Partnership and Special Projects Editor at the Standard Group, Andrew Kipkemboi, today. Man was on a tour of the coast the other day. Last week, he was there with the Embassy of Japan and officials from JICA. What is JICA? Japan International Cooperation Agency, right?
Right.
And he says he discovered Mombasa's best-kept secret, the Mombasa Port and Road Development Project, an infrastructural outlay by the Japanese and Kenyan governments that started in 2016. Long the mainstay of the coast economy, the port area is changing rapidly. Once completed in 2027, this transformation will propel the entire north and south coast into the realms of big cities, served by a collection of world-class infrastructure from the water, from the land, and from the air. A boost that will surely change the region from an inward-looking region to take its place in the national economy. So let's talk about this makeover. The Dongo Kundu Special Economic Zone, that is sitting on 3,000 acres of land, will be a logistics and manufacturing hub. It includes a free port, a free trade zone, an industrial park, a tourism park, and a residential zone served by the new port, which is handling 1 million TEUs of cargo annually. There's a new bypass road, which is the 26-kilometer Mombasa Southern Bypass with 2 bridges and a viaduct, a remade airport, the SGR, a power plant, a water and sewerage treatment point. The cost of this entire project is about 40 billion shillings, which he says is about 25 billion shillings less than this thing called expressway here. There's so much to be had in such targeted investments.
And all these things that he has mentioned, all
are 25 billion shillings cheaper than this thing of ours in Nairobi. He says this makeover of the coast will be a most noticeable, lasting legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta's. So, if you think about the kind of, all this kind of work happening there, and you think about the potential that it brings, and you think about if done right, if everything is just done right, open up that bypass, open the special economic zone, which is far from being completed. Look at the transformation in Likoni. Look at the transformation that's taking place, along the island itself and on the north side. All this is work that could then, all these things that we're saying, job creation, employment creation, opportunities, blah, 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 would be things that would be done very easily. If you think about the special economic zones, and then you also think about China's economic development and how Deng Xiaoping just basically said, we're going to have economic zones in various areas. This is an economic zone that is special and it's targeting this kind of production and this and the other. If you think about the special economic zones that we have 15 in the country and we improved them, would be far.
The example that he further gives is one of Costa Rica. Because you're talking about the years between 1994 and 1998. They had similar programs and special economic zones such as this one here. But in just 10 years, it transformed that country completely. Because In developing these economic zones, they attracted investments. And when investments came in, it means a never-ending problem of unemployment was also addressed. But what then was the transformational aspect of it was the gross domestic product of this particular country, and the earnings of this particular country rose. So the country stopped being just an ordinary, regular banana republic, but it became, should we say, an economic powerhouse within that area of the Caribbean.
Right.
That's true. But one of the things I think oftentimes we miss out on is that when you see huge infrastructure like that here happening at the coast, the example that's given here of Costa Rica, and if you look at this example that he's given and then talks about the fact that it was fueled by certain things, that you have then skilled manpower put in here, you have the necessary infrastructure in terms of IT, for example, connectivity and things like that. Because you can have these great projects, but then there is no fuel to move this vehicle. You can have the great project, but what are you doing to make sure that there's connectivity, for example, in all aspects of all these things that have been mentioned here at the coast? Who is making sure now that you actually give this skeleton some meat to make it move and have it be a well-oiled machine? You'll find that, and that is the thing that dogs progress and dogs development, is that you can have these things and they're great. The skeleton is there, but then where is the meat? Is there, in terms of whether it's political will, whether it's on the side of those who then are working as the worker bees to make sure that all of this comes together, is there enough? Are they putting enough to make sure that this thing is actually moving? Otherwise, it's a dead legacy.
That's very true. But also it brings in the issue of a people-centered development and people being aware of what's happening. If we talk to the people of Kwale County and Mombasa County and Kilifi County, and to some extent even Taita Taveta County, and asked, are you guys aware of the blueprint that is the Dongokundu Special Economic Zone and everything else around it? Are you aware of the potential? Are you aware of everything that's being worked on here and the potential that it has? If many of them are not aware, then they're not even able to keep the government, hold the government accountable to make sure that these things are developed. If the leaders who are going to be elected in August are not aware that, you know what, this Dongokundu Special Economic Zone is a game changer for our region, if they don't see the potential, then they will go to Parliament and they'll not be pushing for Dongokundu.
So here we are saying, all right, 3,000 acres of land. There's certain things that are happening here. It will be a logistics and manufacturing hub. If the people of these 4 counties have no idea that this is something that we could then use and exploit towards the development of our counties, then okay, it becomes useless. If we're saying that there's an industrial park, a tourism park, and a residential zone served by this new port, if all of these things are not used and essentially mechanized, then it's almost useless. That if they are not aware that we can actually take advantage of these things that have then been provided, then you have this monstrosity of a project and nobody is now taking advantage of it because they do not know. It maybe have been announced on a national level, which is great, but then how many people then are actually becoming intimate with this because of knowledge, because of adequate communication, and they say, well, you know what, here are projects, and it could be private sector and or government. Are we not taking advantage of these opportunities because we are not aware of them?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't want to go further and say, okay, fine. This entire bypass, the 2 bridges and a viaduct, a remade airport, the SGR, a power plant and a water and sewage treatment point. We're talking about so many things that could essentially, there's a facelift here, but it could essentially turn around the fortunes of the people in these 4 counties. For those who may have suffered over the last 50 years, and for those who will benefit for the next 50. But if you're not aware of it, here it is just sitting there, and the potential is magnanimous, but nobody's taking advantage of it because they do not know.
We just see it in piecemeal. So you see, there is the development of this bypass, okay? And you think it's just infrastructure. You see the development of this new road and the interchanges, or the development of Makupa Causeway into a dual carriageway, or you cross over from the ferry on the other side of Likoni and you see, okay, so there is development here and there. If you see it piecemeal, you don't get to see the bigger picture. If you hear of a place where there are 3,000 acres of land and some special economic zone will come up at some point, you don't get to see the bigger picture. But then, this is where the leadership comes in connecting the dots for the people and telling them, let's walk the journey together. In the academia as well, we have several universities in the coast. We have several technical colleges in the coast and
Yeah.
TVETs. Are you preparing a workforce that will benefit from this, that will feed into these opportunities?
But isn't this what we're talking about earlier? Just this past week, last week, and when we read that article about the president, read through C.S. Matiang'i when he talked about it was then time that the education sector and the workforce then came together, and I think this is a beautiful example of just that. That here you have these huge projects, right? Water and sewerage, agriculture potential, manufacturing, tourism,
blue
across
economy.
board. So what is being done today? Because sure, these things have been launched over the last year, right? What is happening today in the education sector, for example, to make sure that whoever it is, wherever you are in the country, that you are being trained for potential work at the coast? That even those at the coast, the TVETs that you've talked about, you're bringing out graduates tomorrow who may not know what to do if they get a job in a water and sewerage plant, for example. To carry it out in the 21st century mechanics that we're asking it ought to be. That here you have a tourism park, you have an industrial park. Do we then have enough in terms of workforce skilled in the manner in which is necessary for these things to be carried out? Are there conversations happening right now saying tweak your coursework, get this particular kind of certification, make sure that you're teaching 1, 2, 3 of these so that we can essentially have people who come here and work? Wouldn't it be disastrous, right? If you have these things up and running in the next few months, year, 2 years, and you don't have people to run them.
If you look at what the international community is actually doing in this country, not in the region, case in point, Google, and what they're setting up, a hub for the continent, for the continent, not for the region. They understand the potential, and what are they setting up? A training facility. If you look at the tourism sector and how it is that Kenya for the longest time dominated the tourism sector in this region, look at what we did. We had an Utalii college. What do you think that Utalii college did? It trained manpower for that specific sector, and we even exported that manpower. We're looking at our universities. Yes, but given what economic zones do, TVETs become an integral part of it. Are we investing in our TVETs with the view to ensuring that we will fill the gaps of the employment that will be created by the economic zone? Remember, one of the targets that was envisioned wasn't just Mombasa. There's supposed to be an economic zone in Lamu, an economic zone in Kisumu.
There are 15 economic zones in the country.
Yes. I'm talking about these specialized ones. Which,
special economic zones, 15.
Yes, which they wanted to focus on to begin with, simply because of their proximity to water and the business opportunities that these offer. Okay. Again, the question is asked, do you see the sort of development that is required to support such a system taking place in the country? Whether it's in terms of training, whether it's in terms of, as you say correctly, getting people to understand what is actually happening. Do you see it happening?
Konza Technopolis and the big thing that it is, all right? So, for example, if you just go back into think about what the whole idea of coming up with the Silicon Savannah was, is we are going to have a place where all this development and all this innovation in tech is going to be taking place.
Yes.
We have Microsoft with a big hub in Kenya. We have Google with a big hub in Kenya. Ideally, by now, Konza should be able to be accommodating them.
But is it?
The ecosystem around Konza, by the time Kibaki was launching it as he was living in 2012, by now, 10 years down the road, we should be having something that's proper, that is showing this is where, okay, Google can be saying, all right, so we shall have a hub somewhere in Nairobi, but in the next 1-2 years, we are moving to Konza. Because Konza has been developed in such a way that you can have the hub, you can have the residential area ready, all those things are ready. The slow speed at which we are doing things is also really disheartening. Because yes, there's a lot of work that's going on at Konza right now, but this is where Google should have started. When they're looking to employ and they're hiring all these software engineers and all, and developers, they should be saying, all right, so we have a hub, we already have an office, we've set it up, we blah, blah, blah. You're coming to start working and living around Konza, and we're moving. We don't have that ready. This Dongokundu Special Economic Zone is a conversation that's been there for a while. It's moving on slowly.
It's actually been there for decades.
It's just slow. How much have we had delegations, for example, being sent or being invited into the country? Come and see. This is the master plan for Dongokundu Special Economic Zone. This is how you can invest. This is how you can benefit. This is how we're encouraging the foreign investors and the local investors to come together and start setting up at Dongokundu. How much of the basic servicing have we done in terms of infrastructure? Do we have a sewerage system in place? Do we have water access in place? Do we have roads? Do we have power? Do we have all those things in place? We just have a Dongokundu Special Economic Zone.
Do you think the people in the area know?
They have an idea because they can see what's happening.
I mean, they have an idea that it's there. Do you have an idea what it's supposed to do in terms of its potential? Do you think they know?
The huge potential, the full picture?
Actually, the question you ask is best answered by this. The people who purport to want to lead that particular region, the people who purport to want to be in political positions, have they even spoken to their people about it? Okay, let's go back a little bit. Do they even understand?
The people who want to be leaders, do they actually have an intimate understanding of these projects in these areas and what they are meant to be for and the potential that they have? The potential that they have to turn around. Because, look,
I bet you
every time they
Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir knows about the Dongokundu Special Economic
Zone. Shabal knows.
And Shabal knows.
Omar Hassan
knows. They know.
Even Sonko knows.
How do they see the full potential of it? That's the question that
they
Ndu
know
is
that
asking.
it is. That's I'm asking. Because if you see the full potential, you who wanted to be a leader, who wants to be a leader tomorrow, and you keep harping on this thing, right? Because is that not what they use as the currency to trade then on the desires of the people? That we were going to get you out of poverty. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, and here it is. This is the vehicle. So what I'm asking you to do, go and get an education. Come and then let me show you.
I will deliver this.
I will deliver it to you. All you need to do is make sure that you're properly positioned. Proper positioning could mean give me this position as your leader, then to be able to translate it for you from 1 to 2. Do they even understand? Have they engaged with this information and they know this is actually what it could do? That the people who have suffered from this poverty that has really wrecked for years, this is a potential savior. And to understand it deeply and to say, okay, guys, here it is. Finally, here is something. It couldn't be the be-all and end-all, but it is something that will contribute significantly to making sure that we start to lift ourselves out of this poverty. And I can understand it. But how many do?
There's a big distance between the understanding by the leader and the understanding by the actual vision bearers of this. So, for example, I can tell you, for sure, if you sat down here with Mutula Kilonzo Jr. and Kivutha Kibwana and the others, they'll tell you they know about Konza. Okay?
Yeah.
But then how invested are they in seeing Konza actually coming to fruition? How invested is Governor Kivutha Kibwana and the person who wants to succeed him, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., in seeing Konza and the area around Konza actually develop? Make sure that the people who need title deeds, because Konza was the entire Malili ranch, okay? The people around the Malili ranch also sold off land. Do they have title deeds? They don't. How much effort has been made to make sure that you're lobbying the government so that those people can have title deeds? As we are getting Konza ready, there's title for the land around it, because the land around it, that's where everything else is going to develop. The residentials are going to develop here. The other support industries are going to develop there. There's 3,000 inside Konza, which is the government, but around how much?
You see what Eric is saying actually gets to the heart of the matter, because the thing about economic zones is that those who wish to invest will want leases.
Yep.
It is impossible if you don't have a title deed. Now, something as fundamental and as basic as that. Take, for instance, to understand what an economic zone does, ask yourself what it is that many traders in this country do. They go to Dubai, they go to Turkey, they go to China. Now, when you have an economic zone, a government that thinks county and national would have been talking to the very people who have the products that these Kenyans buy. They would ask them to come and set shop here.
Yep.
Because,
God.
yes, and in setting shop here, what you'll have done, this entire, if you ever travel to China, believe me, the number of Africans on those flights, it's predominantly, in fact, the entire plane is African.
And they're traders.
Yes, and when you come back, man, the luggage that you see. Now you tell me, Nairobi has been a hub for the continent for a long time.
Yep.
Now imagine with a special economic zone that is focused on doing this very simple thing that I'm saying. Because what do you think?
Free port, first of all.
Yes.
No brainer. When there's a company that are called Rea Vipingo with vast acreage of land in Kilifi County.
Yes.
Growing sisal.
That's what they did.
And the fortunes of the sisal plantation are going down. And one man called Chris Kirubi, the late, sits and sees potential.
Land.
Rea Vipingo are looking to sell this piece of land. Work with Centum, let's buy this land. The entire dream of Kirubi is, among the things, to set up a private special economic zone. How do we encourage industries that are manufacturing in China to come and set up in Kilifi, at Vipingo?
Kilifi
come and set up
has a
here.
port.
And you know what, guys? If you want to look at, when you talk about the difficulty, if you're looking at a scale to 1 to 10, we're talking about difficulty factor of 3, 4. It is really not that difficult to do, to get these things running, because you have the basic structure. It is already there. It is already there. Getting these things done. I'm sorry, I'm going to chalk it up just then to will. It is will. It is nothing else. It is not for lack of manpower. It is not for lack of policy. It is not for lack of the intelligence behind putting up these things. It's not for any of that. It's just the will. Can we actually get these things running? And we know for a fact, those who have industrialized are the ones who are going to get to economic development. Period. Let's not even try and romanticize it or sound it's all sexier than it actually. No, that's it. You start to develop and build, industrialize for yourself, you will get wealthy. Otherwise, you won't.
Kenya has something that very many of our neighbors don't have. More than adequate manpower.
Yep.
What we don't have is that unique specialization that is often required for the sort of thing that we're discussing now. But it doesn't mean you don't have the institutions where you can initiate them. We do.
Everything.
We do.
That's required?
Yes.
Absolutely.
But the efforts to ensure that the focus is geared in that direction, that is what we find lacking. There's a dishonest conversation that takes place about our universities. Universities will tell you that they keep creating new courses to meet the needs. They actually do. But what is it? Is it courses that meet what aspect of our lives? What needs are being met? You see, if, for instance, we still have colleges and universities that produce teachers, are we saying that we are in need of more teachers to be trained? Are we saying that the more teachers we train, the more we'll be able to absorb them? We can't absorb the ones we have as we speak.
Yeah.
One field, though, where this anomaly is a bit odd is that we do need more health workers. We certainly do. And we do have them. Yet the government, because of its structure, cannot absorb them for reasons that I think they are the ones who are best placed to explain. Now, we ventured into this wonderful process. The sort of infrastructure and framework that you need for what you call economic takeoff. I dare say we are not quite prepared for it.
We're not.
In terms of manpower development.
We are not moving as one machine.
No.
As government, we are not one machine. When you look at, from Kibaki into Huru, into the next government, we're not one machine. It's not one taking the baton and moving.
It's not a smooth continuation.
It's not smooth continuation. Somebody will come in, the next government will come in and they'll have their own projects and their own plans and their own, and they'll all be saying that, yes, we're implementing Vision 2030. But
so when you talk about
not
that,
following the same implementation plan.
Sure. So when you look at the frustration that presents, and then we look at countries, and there are others. Ireland is one of them. China, of course, is the one with a glaring example of their 5-year plans, and there were 12 of them, and they're still in that. Can you imagine? A country that has built entire cities where there are not people to live has not finished their plan. So it didn't matter who was the leader that took place, that came in and took power, because this plan had been set in motion. And we said, over the next 60 years, this is what we're going to do. And so I hear what you're saying. Really, it really does make sense, Eric, because you're saying it doesn't matter who comes in 2022. That this was the plan that we set some 30 years ago. In 30 years, we're able to lift how many people out of poverty? And we're not saying just lift them out of poverty and give them something in hand. They're saying that they're no longer poor, that they're able to operate on their own. But then 20 years later, 30 years later, we've done that. But in the next 30 years, this is where we strive or aim to be. That it doesn't matter who or what is made up of the next administration. We understand that we are carrying out the plans that we had set up some 40 years ago, and that we are going to continue with just that. So there's no wavering. There's no question, oh, should we do this? Should we build an expressway in the middle of... No. It doesn't come up because the blueprint had been set 30 years ago. It doesn't matter who comes in today. We are following the blueprint, and we will just continue with the plan. So it's disjointed because there's no following of a plan. If there was, this 2030 that we're talking about, who's following it?
I keep saying the basic way you can tell that Vision 2030 is Kenya's economic blueprint is the fact that it's not anchored in law. Okay? It is not anchored in law. So we talk about it,
it's a popular narrative.
About it, blah, 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 this and the other.
You set up an office.
We have an office, delivery secretariat, delivering what? What exactly?
How can you actually enforce it?
How can Parliament
cannot.
How can Parliament call the Director General of the Vision 2030?
And say, how far? You ask you, under what authority are you asking me? Because there was an office, I've been appointed, I'm doing my job on a daily basis. Every now and then we have a conversation with people. But in terms of following a law, you're not following anything.
For all intents and purposes, it might as well be a private company, because you can argue that it's overseeing and giving direction to what the government purposes to do. But as Eric puts it, if it isn't anchored in law, what then are we saying?
Story 2.
Ring around the roses.
China has one advantage. The Chinese Communist Party is like a permanent board. Okay? It's not one person.
It's an organ.
Yes. And it doesn't matter who is at the helm.
Yes, sir. We understood.
There's an understanding of what needs to be done. And even when that person leaves, the person who takes over has been inducted in what they're supposed to do, and they will continue doing it. Now, if you look at countries that don't have a Chinese Communist Party model, but probably are more capitalistic, the so-called Asian tigers, what is it that they started doing? Some countries like Korea just increased the number of working hours in a day. We talk about dormitory towns. They had little dormitories within their factories. So people worked 14 hours straight.
Come out of here, just go and sleep.
Yes. You don't go home. You work for a period of time, then you take a break of certain days to go home. But they were literally working hard, so to put it that way. But then their governments also understood that they needed to invest in these commercial and industrial projects. So the government always had a share. Now, we create parastatals for that purpose. Then we people them with civil servants who are not business people. Yes, that's what we do.
And we expect them to. Let's continue the conversation after this quick break. 25 to 8. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Are you ready to become your own paparazzi with the new Galaxy A series range? Snap awesome pics and capture awesome videos with the Galaxy A33. It's 5G and it has a 48 megapixel camera. The A53, it's also 5G and a 64 megapixels camera. And the A73, also 5G. And the camera here is 108 megapixels. Now you're awesome. You won't get interrupted because these awesome devices feature a 2-day battery. Ready for more connecting, more sharing, more awesome? The new Galaxy A series range. Hey, you can trade in with a kind of a phone that you now have and you want to trade in. So we'll tell you more about this phone and these cameras specifically, and what do we mean when we say it's 48 megapixels or it is 64 megapixels or 108 megapixels for the A73.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play.
Smoking shisha and releasing things on your smoke like a Subaru. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. And you want God to give you a man who has a mission and a vision.
You may create an illusion of because he's younger, he's interested in me or he likes me, but he's using me.
Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from adults in the room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
The adults in the room.
Extra, extra! Read all about it! We have big news! The new Galaxy A series range has arrived and it's taking awesome to a whole new level. You love capturing with the Galaxy A33 5G's 48 megapixel camera, the A53 5G's 64 megapixel camera, and the A73 5G's 108 megapixel camera. The 2-day battery will keep your awesome going for longer and longer. You can now trade in your old device and upgrade for any of the 3 new arrivals, which come with Samsung Care Plus and a free one-time screen replacement. Awesome's what we're doing. T's and C's apply.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning at 16, highs of 23 and lows of 15. At 15, it's clear in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 14 today. It continues to rain in Nyeri at 17, highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 22 in a mostly sunny Eldoret at 16. It's mostly sunny at 16 now in Mombasa, highs of 31 and lows of 26. It's raining, however, in Malindi at 26, highs of 31. Cloudy conditions at 20 in Kisumu, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 27 in a rainy Kakamega at 18. 19 degrees and a rainy morning in Kampala. 24 will be the high. We'll see highs of 31 in a cloudy Dar es Salaam, currently at 25. And at 11, it's clear in Johannesburg. 21 will be the high, down to lows of 9. And clear conditions in Lagos for now at 26 with highs of 32. We'll see highs of 32 in a mostly clear Kinshasa at 23, and that'll be today's low.
Chilled Spice.
A really good day traffic-wise. That means you really will not get stuck anywhere today because of the fact that everybody's home. A few people working here and there, but nothing to really rock your boat today in terms of traffic across the city and really outside the city and its environs. I don't think we have much happening either going east to looking into Mombasa city and then going west, Naivasha, Nakuru, out into Kisumu and further on. Not too much of an issue today. Just in case something does pop up, let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
(20 minutes to 8).
Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Country, and I mean, what potential this country has. So many things that could be done in this country. So many things that could be happening faster than they are. You're telling us about the economic giants of the Southeast Asia.
Yes, you know, when one heard that all huge manufacturing giants in the West had moved to China, where do you think they nestled their industries in? Is these special economic zones? Now, you only need to consider that there's a time we spoke happily about everything being made in China because literally everything was being made. From a safety pin to a phone, to a car, to toys, to you name it. Now, examples, I mean, around the world, there are more than you care to think about. Now, again, my focus here is on the benefit that this country has. And that is in a compliant citizenry who are willing to put their back to the task. What they often lack is the opportunity and the support of their government to do just that. Now, this little task that the government has been given, please set up appropriate institutions, ensure that you push for adequate training and facilitation so that when we've set up these institutions and these places and these zones, we have what is required, the wherewithal to enable the would-be investor to feel that this is where they would like to set up their business. Again, the government talks about the things they want to do. But the details of what they ought to do, let's take, for instance, let's be generous. Today is a public holiday. Let's be generous.
Let's be
say,
nice.
Yes, and say that they have done so. Then why don't they talk about it? The things that they have done and the things that we ought to know, why don't they talk about it so that it is known? Let's take the discussion now down to what we said earlier on about the would-be leaders and the leaders. Leaders in all these areas, 15 economic zones. I was focusing on 3 that are nestled around some water bodies. But why is it that you don't hear of these leaders talking about the potential? Because this employment they talk about, that's where your unemployment problem gets solved.
Where it's sorted.
Poverty.
Are we gearing towards having these special economic zones?
Yes. No.
Are our policies, are our laws, are the county laws gearing towards this special economic zones?
County laws and legislation. Eric, that needs a question to be asked in order to we understand it further. The people who man our counties, do they understand about the legislative processes that will enable them to take benefit of such things when they come into being within the counties? The answer is a resounding no, because you don't see any movement being made to actually facilitate these very things that are already happening. You don't see it.
We don't.
And yet, you then ask, so what do they occupy their time doing? What do they occupy themselves with? These are the things that bring wealth into the county and then into the country. Wealth that lasts and wealth that is enduring.
Yes.
Okay? Dubai doesn't boast of any agriculture. They don't even bother to think or talk about it. What do you think they did and what do you think they do even now?
It's visionary leadership that is lasting.
Yes. Understanding the benefits and the potential of what you have and harnessing it.
I think it also comes down to, even as we were looking at Mwai Kibaki's legacy, right? It's looking at somebody who is a leader who is visionary and focused. Because you think about, like you just said, the ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Al Maktoum. His every waking moment is not thinking about the today.
No.
He is 10 years ahead. He's thinking 10 years ahead. What am I doing to make Dubai get there? What is it that we are doing to take Dubai there? Our leaders, if you look at the Uhuru administration, yes, they have this whole lofty ideas of what Kenya is going to look like, but they're focusing so much on getting it done today, and so that you can praise them for what has been done today. It's every new day what is being done, not what are we doing for that 5 years, 10 years down the road.
So that everything you see on a daily basis is moving towards that direction.
Taking us there.
Yes. But as you say correctly, the things you see, they are complete in and of themselves. When it's done, it's for today, it's done.
Yes,
we have to finish this expressway in 1 year.
Okay, we get it.
We have to finish the Mau Mau roads in, 1 year. We have to finish in a year, because I'm getting out of office and I have to leave my job, my project done. We have to do these stadia. They have to be complete. I have to launch them before I leave.
And you know something? Given what it is that we are, among other things, a country that produces world-class athletes, where should we have built these stadia first?
Well, the places where we should have built a stadium, for example, the Kip Keino Stadium, the Camarine Stadium. No.
They should have been there, so that these competitions, that when you hear of Kip Keino Golden Series or whatever it's called, it shouldn't be taking place at Nyeri Stadium. It should be taking place where? In Eldoret.
In Eldoret, at the Kip Keino Stadium.
That's where it should be taking place, so that the people come, they can relate to this. Plus, it gives them an opportunity to see the country as they head in that direction.
And this is basically the place. When you talk about, the place for long distance runners, for running.
This is it.
Nairobi. It's
yes.
in Uasin Gishu. Go there. Have them there, whether it's Sigishu, Elgeyo Marakwet. Basically, you're just having in that region.
But you see, Eric, that thinking where you actually take development to where it's nestled and where it can benefit and enhance this so-called country development more. Where do you produce most of our rugby and football players?
In Western Kenya.
Precisely. Where can we have world-class ranches so that when you speak and talk about beef production, everything that relates to it, Northeastern Province? Every region in this country has a unique benefit that can be harnessed. Every. When I say every, I mean every.
Yeah.
And we've had for the longest time development authorities in each of these regions, which is supposed to help spur development.
Yes.
By and large, when they're really functioning, they're limping. By and large. Okay? Projects that never seem to end, projects that never seem to be completed, and a lot of stories. And a lot of shuffling of the leaders and the people who are in charge.
Until and unless you have a leader with a reformist agenda who, because and not realizes, but then now acts upon the realization, because all of these fellows who are sitting here today, they know. Let's not be fooled. And which is what makes it a little bit more painful. Let's not be fooled that they do not know what ought to be done in order to get this country moving economically, or any other country on the continent for that matter. Let's not be fooled. Look at those who have actually started to get this thing on its wheels and moving. That they have actioned a plan. That they have said, okay, here it is, it's put on paper. Let us see where we need to go. And let's now start planning towards that. That you see this thing and you choose deliberately not to act on it, because here we are focusing on, let me get elected, and then when I'm elected is when I'll start to do. Okay, let me get elected, and then when I'll get elected is when I'll start talking about. No. Even today, here we are. Just this project that we're talking about as a point of example today is we've asked the question, how many of your leaders from the coastal areas, for example, are talking to the people about saying, over the next 5 years, this is where we would have positioned ourselves to make sure that we start to eradicate these things of poverty, of lack of education, of lack of economic development, of lack of infrastructure, of lack of 1, 2, 3. The truth of the matter, if we want to be honest with ourselves, is that all these begging bowls that we take outside is absolutely unnecessary. If you focus, the people who are going to ask, where did they start from? The people who are giving you the money, where did they start from? You talked about the Asian tigers. What is the one fundamental thing that they all started to do? That they started to produce locally for
yes,
themselves.
They did.
They started to produce across board. The 14-hour day you're talking about, that they then got 7 days after to rest. What did they do? They were producing.
They were
producing for the local market, primarily for themselves. What did Indonesia and who again? Malaysia tell us the other day? Palm oil. They said, thank you, but we are now producing for ourselves.
First.
Let's finish for ourselves, then we'll see if we have enough for you. Do you think they don't have what they'll use today? Do you think that thing that they're saying that they're going to stop giving you as the world is what they want to use today? Do you think it's what they want to use today? Obviously, they're looking at the longevity of that initial economic plan that they have and how far it's going to take them. It's not for today that they're talking. Now, here we are, probably think, they want to use their palm oil today, so they're not giving us. No, it's not for today. Everybody started to produce for themselves. Until and unless we get into that thing where we realize, look, you cannot eat everything plus the seed and the tree and chop it down and use it. You manufacture for yourself. The surplus is what is exported. The surplus is what is exported. Surplus is what is exported.
You don't do as you're speaking. Who thought that Korea would be a world leader in car manufacturing? Who thought Japan, for that matter? If you knew the history of the vehicles that were produced in that country and the problems that they had, overheating, doing God knows what, who would have thought that the world as we know it would not only have Japanese vehicles as some of the most valuable vehicles on the road, but that they would have set up their industries in other countries outside Japan? Who would have thought of it? And then look at telecommunication, look at electronics. What am I saying? There's a certain determinedness that the leadership had and the focus. Right now, we keep talking about what we call the electronic version, the electronic field. We're talking about telephones. For the longest time, any such field, it's the Western world. It was Europe, it was America who led. So the only reason why these Asian countries came to the fore was not because they're just producing them. The quality was undisputed.
They went ahead. They set up even research and development.
Yes.
Just that at a certain time, Samsung was one of those that yeah, what? Samsung. How do you even pronounce that? Samsung, what? Right now, today.
Who doesn't know about Samsung?
We are talking about Samsung inventing and basically taking a lead on telephone technology.
Not only technology.
We're talking about taking a lead on fridge.
Taking a lead in robotics.
And robotics.
Yes. How? Now, you're talking about a country like this one of ours, where the human resource capacity is not in doubt. Capacity here means the ability to want to move forward and do things. The one thing that Kenyans are not afraid to do is to seek new opportunities and to do what needs to be done. That one, they
take the risk.
They will take it. Now, all that is being asked of the government, okay, as we are ready, we've been prepared for a long time. Can you just ease the path for us? Because only you can ease the path. Make it possible for us to do this. Make it possible for us to do this.
That's it.
This late immediate former president, whom we buried on Saturday, this man did just that. People wanted money. He opened it up. Why? The government stopped being the biggest borrower of local funds and local financial facilities. Money was available to individuals to borrow. Banks became hawkers. They were hawking their money. It became possible for the common person, the simple Mwananchi, to have access to money. We have gone back on that.
It's
We're all
leadership.
over.
It's leadership. It is leadership.
There's something that President Uhuru Kenyatta said yesterday during his Labor Day speech. And he was, for example, he gave this example and said, during these COVID times, something happened. Juakali artisans on Gong Road, in Kamukunji,
making doors.
And in the other car is what? Korogosho. They came together. And when we started this, affordable housing program, they came and saw me and they said, we'd like to get these jobs. And I gave instructions that, give them the jobs.
Let them make the
for
doors.
making the doors and the windows for these houses. Now, he says they formed a company which would make it easier for them to get paid. They organized themselves. They now are a company worth over 200 million shillings. They have bought many of the units that they helped construct. They have bought. Okay? Which goes back to what you're saying, City. We're just ready. It's where is the door? Where is that opportunity?
Facilitate that.
Just facilitate and we are in there.
Yes. We will not need you after that. We will get the job done. Just facilitate and then let us do our business.
And it could even have gone even beyond that into, all right, so who is the contractor for electrical works in all these houses? Who is the contractor for masonry in all these houses? Where are you getting these masons from? All this could have been just organization of these small groupings of people. These are watu wa mjengo of Koroga. They know one another. They have skill.
They do.
These are electrical people, electricians.
They
know one another. They have skill. These are roofing people. All these things we're talking about now. Let's move back into production. All the concrete that you're actually using to build here. All the bricks that you're using, the roofing tiles, everything, is it 100% locally sourced? Because we could. And then you just set up and move and move and move. But the frustration comes into those things of, are we taking pride in the fact that one group came together and now they are worth 200 million shillings? Or are you seeing the potential of what that means and then saying, actually, this has opened my eyes? And what else could we do?
Why can't this be replicated
What is it?
countrywide?
Why are these people working on Gong Road? Why are they working in Korogosho? Why are they working in Kariobangi?
Yes.
Where do we have places where these people can actually be positioned?
Can we help them move to the next level?
Yes.
Because when you talk about Kariobangi Light Industries,
that is the exact reason why that thing was established.
Yes.
Incubation hubs were there across the country. Today we talk about incubation in tech. Government had incubation hubs.
They did.
In those 70s. The light industries, that's what they were.
And what is of great interest is that these people had the capacity. But then a certain kink came into the discussion. When the pipeline were doing their thing and opening up, one of the things that they discovered, they didn't have certain specialities. Welding.
Yes.
Specialized welding. You've read of cases where they have a certain Lebanese company about charges and costs. The reason was these are the people who had that expert training. So you ask yourself, in the years we've had all these polytechnics, in the years we've had now technical universities, and we're getting some more, are we saying that we didn't understand? We even had a refinery, for heaven's sake. Are you saying we didn't see the need to have enough people who are trained in this particular area of specialization to cater for our needs?
It basically just shows us that.
Yes, and it also tells us that some of the people whom we put in leadership have this narrow-minded, myopic perspective of self-acquisition and plunder
not
of
meeting the needs.
It's not meeting the needs of the people.
SGR, for example, during the construction of SGR, very many Kenyans were taken to China for training.
They were.
We have had a railway training institute in South B for years.
Decades. That thing is old.
With this whole SGR stuff, how much has RTI been improved? Such that now people don't have to go to China. They can actually train here.
Why did the Chinese come and upgrade that thing and train people here? You know that institution for the longest time, one of the most revered institutions when it came to training in those particular areas.
Yeah.
Why do you let something die so that you can find a way and a means of siphoning money out of a system?
Out of it.
Bollocks. Keep it here. In the next hour, we want to talk about petroleum prices and availability of the product in the market. And also, we will tell you more about sinking water wells, courtesy of Colgate and well boring. So what have they done so far?
So far, 90 water wells having been sunk around the country really have met the needs of untold in terms of numbers, and saying, you know what, we've seen that this has helped. We want to do some more. So Colgate, together with Well Boring, who specializes in this, have said if you buy toothpaste, Colgate, at any of your Naivas branches, 10 shillings will go towards sinking 30 more water wells by the end of 2022. And that would reach 120,000 more Kenyans with clean water in the communities, in homes, at school, to make sure that this resource is accessible by all.
Indeed. Keep it here. In the next hour, we talk to the Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya chairman to tell us about the plan to restore normalcy at the pump across the country. It's now 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Imenirudisha kwenye nilikuwa.
Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, so this morning, not much in terms of traffic. A bit of a gloomy outlook in terms of weather, though. It should rain later on. But hopefully that won't affect much. So today we're likely not going to see any of this. Just keep an eye on things through the morning and through the day. And we can talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
Good morning. How are you doing? It's
This
2 minutes
is
after
the
8. Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues on this second day of March 2022. We had skipped over for a bit into April because we were honoring the former president, the late Mwai Kibaki. We are back to the first quarter of the year. We're in March until the day the president launches the Nairobi Expressway, and until the day the president announces a drop by 15% of power bills in the country. He promised us those things would happen within the first quarter of the year. Until then, we are not moving into second quarter. We are not even jumping. We are not becoming independent. We are not vying as independents. No, we are in this party.
And we're here to stay.
And we're here to stay. Yes.
Until and unless.
Until and unless we are not going anywhere. City has the day's proverb.
I do. Today's proverb is the Central African Republic. When a monkey climbs a tree, its bottom becomes more exposed the higher it goes.
When a monkey climbs a tree, its bottom becomes more exposed the higher it goes.
The monkey's bottom is not an extension, it's part and parcel of its body. So if the monkey moves up the tree, the bottom also moves with it.
Right.
Yes.
Thank
But
you.
when it's at eye level, you see the body of the monkey. But as it goes up, what you get to see are the lower limbs. You get to see the legs and more so the bottom. Bottoms by their very nature tend to protrude, so you see it. Yes. And the higher it goes, the less you will see, and after a while, all you will see is the bottom.
Julia Kagituju has a translation of the day's proverb. If you want to know the true character of a person, give them power or money or status.
How very to the point.
The more power, the more money, the more status this person has, the more exposed their bottom
becomes. In fact, I would argue she has actually lumped them all together, which is good, makes it very potent. But if you choose any one of those variables, it definitely will show you a side of a person that you never thought. I remember just the other day, our colleague Jimmy Gathu was talking about the time when he didn't have a job.
Yeah.
And how it is, suddenly the phone stopped ringing. People stopped getting in touch with him. And then he came to understand that there were people who were actually friends of his job, not him. So the moment the job went, so did the friendship.
Friends of his status.
Yeah, his status. Yes, your job.
It's a platform that you have. Many are like that.
And there's the feeling that with that platform, who knows, you might actually be of benefit to them. But the moment that isn't there, it is evident.
Yeah.
That usefulness has also gone.
You have no use to me, man.
No phone calls.
You have no use to me. Let's bring in somebody who has proper status in this country. And this is the chairman of the Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya, Martin Chomba. These are the people who the president was talking to yesterday when he told them, and I will read. Just give me a moment, Martin.
Sasa nyinyi wa Kenya wenzangu.
Before we introduce you, just allow me to read. President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday read the Riot Act to petroleum industry players for causing a major fuel shortage last month. The president, in his last Labor Day speech in Nairobi, warned oil marketing companies that the government would not hesitate to penalize any of them found culpable of offenses that resulted in great uncertainty in the market. You cannot keep telling us that we do not have fuel in petrol stations, and we know that you're selling this fuel in other markets so that you can make higher profits. Please tell your people You was telling the FKE. We must have partnerships that benefit the whole country. Martin.
Yes, sir.
Chomba.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
The Riot Act, you'll tell us how you come into that. First, tell us.
Yeah.
Umekuja na mafuta kidogo. Wajua sisi ni
sample.
Mafuta iko.
Ya kuachia, kuachia marafiki.
Hata ile ya
mafuta ya macho.
Ya macho. Who are the Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya?
Okay, Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya is a group of non-franchised petroleum dealers. We are moving from the notion that people have previously called as independent petroleum dealers or unbranded. So I've been telling people that we are branded. It's only that we are not affiliated to the big brands. Then when you talk of independent dealers, you're talking of independence from who? So the people that deals with the fuel outside in the villages, each one of us comes from a certain village, I'm sure. And in that village, when you go home, there's this guy with one pump that is selling super petrol. And he's the guy feeding the borders and the Sientas and the Probox of this world. Yep. They are literally the guys fueling the rural economy.
Yep.
So the Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya came up. I'm the founding chairman and the current chairman. After being in the industry for quite some time, for a period spanning over 22 years now, I realized that there's a way that that market is characterized. It's characterized as a market that is uncultured, goonish, or something. It's not been taken with the...
You're the ones who adulterate fuel.
That's the notion that has been out there.
Mafuta ya kupika kwa petrol.
That is the notion that has been out there. But you see, it's a big industry where you're likely to find all sorts of people within the value chain.
Right.
So we sought to bring together all the independent, the so-called independent, now we call them non-franchised, every person who is in the value chain in terms of the lower distribution system, to bring them into a formal organization where we can accentuate our plight and make sure that we are heard and that we are not just a statistic within the industry, but we are given the right place as it were, because we command. Just the other day, empirical studies commissioned by EPRA has brought back a report that these pumps make 68% of all petrol stations in Kenya. And that the recommendation thereof was that there is no way this group can be left out of the fuel importation in this country.
Allow me, guys, to ask this next question, please.
No, please, ask the next question.
Because just give us the historical background of franchise and emergence of the non-franchised.
Okay. So
just the development of the petroleum sector at the pump level in the country.
Okay. So what gave rise to the emergence of non-franchised is that when the multinationals came into this country, most of them have been localized to most of the urban centers. And as the economy started opening up into the rural areas, you'll find that some of them are not able to go to those very rural places. And lo and behold, when we promulgated the Constitution, the 2010 Constitution, and gave rise to the county governments, and now we have businesses going back to the rural areas in terms of counties, there came a rise of so many of those businesses. When the late President Kibaki zero-rated the motorbikes, and they came in big numbers, there was a big need for those motorbikes to be fueled out there. Then there was this surge of importation of these vehicles that carry people around the villages. And you'll find that most of them, they do their local businesses within the villages. You'll find that there's a place in this country where you travel about 50 kilometers or so to an urban center. So, and those people are still moving around doing some businesses. Now, that is what has given rise to these pumps that you find. You'll find them as one pump or two pumps within the villages. So that's how we have come to be, yes, as an industry.
You talked about the fact that it was necessary to have all of these independence, as it were, come together so that your plight can be heard. I'm curious as to what this plight may have been. You also talked about, more or less controlling 68%, or rather contributing 68% of the revenue that comes in from this business. So what is this plight? It would seem as though things are not as rosy.
Okay, let me put it into perspective. We control 68% of the pumps. Okay, but there's something we call in the industry throughput, the amount of fuel that one is able to dispense. That we control about 50%. So the plight we are talking about is that this group, as big as it is, has not been represented at the OTS, the open tender system. So what we've been doing is that we've been scavenging for fuel from the multinationals. So when they import fuel and they have a bit of excess. It is not under any contractual agreement. It is on their benevolence. So you cannot force anyone to sell product to you.
Okay.
So in terms of hitches like we have had because of the recent chaos within the geopolitical issues happening in Ukraine and Russia, we are left on our own. And this is what has now given rise to the kind of commotion you're seeing and the fear within the market. Because as long as the 68% pumps are not dispensing, you expect to have a lot of commotion within the urban centers.
Okay, so do I hear you to say that if you were then allowed to participate at the OTS, that we would not have had this problem that we're seeing today?
Correct.
Are you able to participate?
This thing is a very capital-intensive kind of a venture. And we just formed 2 years ago. So we are forming ourselves structures to enable us or requisite to leverage on importation kind of criteria. So what has happened recently is that we have formed ourselves into a SACCO. We have a tripartite organization now where we have a lobby group and we have a trading company and then we have a SACCO. The SACCO is to coalesce funds so that it can enable or have the trading company leveraged in terms of getting finances and guarantees of things like LCs. And then the lobby group is now to talk about the plight that we have. Yeah.
Let's talk about the fuel that you people trade in.
Okay.
You say it's capital intensive.
Very.
All right. In terms of shillings, how intensive is it?
In terms of shilling?
Yes. What amounts are we talking about?
We're talking about billions of Kenya shilling.
Okay. Give me tens of billions, hundreds of
in
billions?
this country?
Yeah, in this country.
Yeah, in this country, every year we do a throughput of about 390-something thousand, a million liters of all the product. That is kerosene, what we call illuminating kerosene.
Illuminating kerosene?
Yes, IK. It's called IK.
Ile mafuta taa?
Yeah, mafuta taa.
Okay.
Ni wakona kizungu mingi.
I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, then we have Jet A1, the one for the planes. And then we have diesel, automotive gas oil is what we call AGO. And then we have premium motor spirit is what we call the PMS. The combination throughput of that goes to about 390-something million liters.
All right, that is total, all that is
local within the country.
Local consumption.
Yes.
And you guys
68%
are doing now 50% of that. Yeah.
Yes.
50% of that.
All right. Now, this 50%,
yes,
950, that's 450, that's half.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Is equals to
how much?
In Kenya shillings?
Man, in Kenya shillings, you'll have to multiply that by 145 shillings now.
Okay.
That's a huge number.
Let's say this.
Yes.
If you were to participate in an open tender system,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
How much money would you be required if you won the tender?
If won
this
the tender,
month,
how
much money do you need to participate in that tender?
We would require something to the tune of about 30 to 40 billion.
Just to win one tender?
Yes.
And to be able to meet
our demand. Yeah.
And now, would the independents have that at hand?
Okay, how we are going about it, because they say a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, is that we have partnered with some of the multinationals, because they are multinationals who do not have a very good network across the country, supply network, yet they have infrastructure through which we can ride to make sure that we have the product.
Okay.
As recent as last week, through the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining and EPRA, we were able to get for the very first time 20 million liters hived from everybody else's allege to the independent so that we can supply it across the country. So we have partnered with 4 multinationals to make sure that they have an audited supply system that will make sure that at the end of the day, we are able to account that petrol, that fuel has gotten to the independent dealers across the country.
Now, was that agreement something that you came up with on your own, or was it as a result of what we heard PS Kamal saying was necessary to do, whereby these folks were hoarding this fuel and were told to get rid of it or stop operation?
That arrangement was what we have been having all along. So what has happened is that the PS is very receptive. I like giving credit where credit is due. He's a magnanimous guy who sees who sits at your side and looks at what you're looking at and tells you this can work or it cannot work depending on this and that. So we have been having this engagement and we've given them a number of recommendations. Amongst them is that. And so when chance presented itself, we took it. It was a concerted agreement between the OMCs, the Ministry of Mining and EPRA, and us as the Petroleum Outlets Association.
So I'm seeing then that you've had an understanding in terms of relationship and how this business can work all this time. What you've just said.
Yeah,
that you've had this understanding.
For us, we have had, and we still have a blueprint of how we can go about it, even in the long term. But it takes time for people to accept that you're there.
That's very well understood.
Yeah.
So in this incident, over the last 2 months, where you've had this biting issue that has been in the country, what, from your perspective, because clearly we've heard so many perspectives by now.
Yes.
What is the problem?
Okay, the problem that happened is in the last 3 months or so, the geopolitics notwithstanding, because we can't run away from the geopolitics, but you realize that we've had the soaring prices of petroleum even before the Ukraine and Russian issue.
Yes.
So what happened is that over time, from last year, April, when the government realized that the prices were going up exponentially, they introduced the subsidy. It was not supposed to be the subsidy per se. It is supposed to be a stabilization. A stabilization where instead of the prices going, say, for example, up by 10 shillings, the government gives 5 and then the price rise is 5. So that has metamorphosized into a subsidy because I think they did not anticipate the kind of the rise that would come. So over time, before then, we used to have a very important component in the pricing structure of IPRA called the wholesale cap. This wholesale cap was supposed to take care of margins. Allow me to let you in on how these margins are shared.
Okay.
When you do importation of petroleum product, there is about 12 shillings and 90 cents. That is the gross margin across the value chain, from the importer to the petrol station owner, and now the dealer, the person selling at the station. So the importer gets 4 shillings. And the person who has invested with the petrol station gets another 4 shillings per liter. And then the person at the fueling pump also gets, the dealer now at the pump gets 4 shillings.
So if you can just, for the sake of everybody, distinguish between those two: the person who has invested in the petrol in the petrol station, and the dealer.
Okay. What happens is the petrol stations you see branded, most of them are not owned by those companies. It's like Eric gets a plot of land and builds up this petrol station, and because that is not your main line of business, you lease it out.
Okay.
When you lease it out, you lease it out to a multinational. That multinational in turns also leases the dealership to another person who probably is else they were doing something else.
Stop.
Yeah.
Dealership here meaning the individual who is actually running the petrol station.
Yes.
That's now dealership.
That's the dealer.
So when I see those big multinational names,
yes,
it's just a brand.
It's not.
It's a brand. Yeah, it's a brand.
It is Eric's property.
Yeah,
it is Eric's plot and investment.
Yes.
And then I want to use an example. Delta petrol station. Right?
Yes.
So those are my friends. I can put them on it.
Yes.
So Delta petrol station. I
Yes.
go to Delta, Galana Oil, and I say, okay, you guys, I have this investment. Would you like to operate here? And they say, fine, we will brand our station.
Yes.
Delta.
That's the way it is, basically.
And then Ndu now comes and is the one who's running the station.
Yes. Yes. You
So
build
there,
the
so there
station.
are three entities involved here.
Most of the time. Most of the time.
And here the main issue is Delta will do the job of bringing the fuel to.
Yes. Yes.
Make sure that their fuel comes
So they
here.
pay you, Eric, the rent. Then she's the one who's running, and then the Delta Galana provides the brand.
Great.
Yeah, so that's how it's just the way you wear Louis Vuitton and you're not him or you're not her. So,
so FOBOB to the importer.
Yes.
FOBOB to the owner of the station, that's the investor.
Yeah.
And then FOBOB to the dealer.
Yes.
12 shillings.
There was some sense at the end of it.
Yeah, there are some cents. There are some cents in there. Actually, there is also another variable, the transport cost.
Okay.
It's in there. It's only that it's assimilated within the value chain, and it's taken care of within that value.
Okay.
So I was driving this point. EPRA used to give us a maximum wholesale price, so that you protect the margin of the dealer and the investor from the importer. So when the subsidy came, because of the negative margins, and this is how the negative margins comes, is when, like now, the petrol we are selling today is supposed to be 175 shillings per litre at the pump. But the government has subsidized 30 shillings per litre to 145. So it means these guys who imported the fuel, they are already negative 30 shillings as they wait for the compensation. Okay? So they found that if they include that margin, then it will be now negative 38 shillings. So they agreed with the multinationals. The multinationals gave it as a bare minimum that at least that should be removed, so that they are not they don't run into too much for cost of financing, because that is what they say. Yeah, they're not exposed, especially in the cost of financing that money, because as we said, it's capital intensive. But in as much as we understand their plight and know that they are running into a serious financial crisis because of that, then we also have to agree that if you let that thing out, then you kill the independent. Because what happened is, in the last 3 months, because of this, most of the multinationals started selling products to us at the pump price. And when they sell to you at the pump price, you're supposed to transport that product, take it to your
They've killed
station.
your profit margin.
Yeah. There's actually no profit margin. Actually, you run into negative, because the minute you load, from the depot, that transport cost is negative.
Yep.
How you run the station is negative, and now everything about you is negative. So what happened?
What are your costs?
Our costs, you have the transport cost.
Okay.
You have the electricity. You have the statutory obligations.
Right.
You have the salaries. A whole lot. It's
so everything is basically
negative.
Here, the operator.
Yes.
Including salaries. And
Everything.
there you said
Everything.
licenses.
Yes.
Permits.
Everything. Name it.
Electricity bills. Running that thing at uko na pressure.
And in an ideal situation, this 4 shillings is supposed to cater for all this.
Yeah, it's supposed to. You see, like for us, it's supposed to be 8 shillings, because remember, you are the dealer. There's something we call the dodo, dealer owned and dealer operated. Yeah, so if you're the one who have done most of the independent dealers, the non-franchise, are the same owners of the petrol station and the same ones running it. So they're able to take in, with the 8 shillings, they're able to take in the cost.
They take the other 4, and they take their 4.
Yes.
So it becomes 8.
Yes.
So we're looking at a situation here where that 38 shillings or 30 shillings in this case has not been paid. And that is why we have had this crunch.
But yeah, before most of the multinationals, a few weeks ago, were talking about non-payment, delay of that money that they're supposed to be paid, so that they can go for another load out there.
Right.
So we understood them, But a few weeks ago, I think they were paid. They should be remaining, I think, 1 month. And ever since the OTS started, the subsidy started, they have operated with 1 month kind of delay of payment. So for us, probably to streamline this, amongst the things that we recommend is that if the government can have a way of anticipating all their sales, okay, there are a lot of arithmetics in terms of how the product comes into the country, cost build-up and all that, and verification, because the payment is not done like in one office in a day. There's a lot of verification from who did you sell to, then to the treasury, to the petroleum mining, and verification from EPRA. So it takes quite some time. But what we have been trying to tell the people out there is that all efforts must be made. Because you remember, I just told you that they stopped selling to us because they were selling at pump price. And then they got to a place whereby they went beyond the pump price. Because there's a time in this country, a few months ago, product went beyond 150 shillings per litre. So you could not operate. Why? Because at the pump side, you are capped by EPRA, what they have published as the maximum retail price. So even if you buy this product, you cannot go there and
you can't adjust the price.
Adjust your price. And even if you are allowed to adjust the price, the public will judge you very harshly.
We'll take you to
when there was
EPRA.
let me give you an example. When this was happening, there are few people who decided, because people are really suffering out there, let us just buy this product, as expensive as it is. We go try to sell to the people out there, so that you'd rather have an expensive product than none. But lo and behold, when things cools and subsides, now the ball turns. They are told, you guys were exploiting us. So the public will tell you, you are exploiting us. The public now no longer sees that you're trying to provide that service to them. They'll see you took advantage. But in real sense, they don't understand that you didn't take advantage. Actually, you bought it at very expensive prices. So there's a need, a very serious need in this country. And I thank God because of late, we have had a few meetings with the ministry and EPRA, and they appear to be very keen on listening to what we are trying to advise them, to have this market well taken care of, requisite steps taken into place to make sure that independent markets do not have issues with pricing. Because for us, we don't take our products for export. If I'm a local person, the only place I can take my product is in the local market. There are accusations across the country where multinationals have had to sometimes take the bulk of, some of them, not all of them, to take the bulk of their imports for export. And that has also given pressure. But the other component is the fuel in Kenya is cheaper than it is out there. So you realize all the trucks that come to Mombasa to take things and take them to Uganda or Rwanda, most of them are fueling in Kenya. So if one truck takes 1,000 liters return ticket, and we are doing about 2,000 trucks a day, you can imagine how many millions of liters those are. So that's another issue that is bringing a lot of pressure, and especially in the Western Kenya, because they want to fuel just before they cross the border. So
that also adds into it.
Yes.
Let's take a break and then continue this conversation. We want to ask you several questions on what needs to happen. There are those who have said, maybe what we need to do is remove this whole regulation. Remove the fuel cap, the margins,
Let the market forces.
Let the market forces. If they want to eat us alive, let them eat us alive.
300.
It's fine. Is that a way to go? Ndu.
All
Selfies.
Right. Selfies and a way to become your own paparazzi with the new Galaxy A series range over the holidays. You're looking at times where you can capture moments and awesome videos with the Galaxy A33's 5G 48MP camera, the A53 5G 64MP camera, and the A73 108MP camera. Your awesome won't get interrupted because these awesome devices feature a 2-day battery. Are you ready for more connecting, more sharing, more awesome? The new Galaxy A series range. Awesome. That's what we're doing. And trade-ins are also now available.
It's 8:30. We are live on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, on YouTube and Facebook. Martin Chomba is a Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya chairman, and we are talking to him about stabilization of the fuel market in this country. What needs to happen? What measures are the government taking, and what is the association championing and pushing for. The Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya represents those non-franchised dealers. They have 68% of the pumps across the country. They move 50% of the volume of petroleum products in the country. That's a huge market. Talking about this soon after you come back.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
The group of leaders we are having now, these are just like the polymers. The chemical composition is the same.
Are you corruptible?
Hopefully not.
And maybe that's part of the problem.
People who have done about 300 speeches and they are not saying anything. What makes you think that they will come with something really dramatic?
Don't miss out on the latest from Kenya's biggest conversation. SMS TSR to 22840.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money?
Cloudy in Nairobi at 16, highs of 23 and lows of 15. It's sunny at 16 in Nakuru. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 14. Rain showers in Nyeri at 17 continue, highs of 24 today and lows of 15. And we'll see lows of 12 in Eldoret, where it's cloudy at 15, going to highs of 22. Cloudy conditions at 27 in Mombasa, highs of 31. And we'll see highs of 31 as well in a rainy Malindi. Cloudy at 20 in Kisumu, highs of 28 and lows of 19. Mostly rain this morning in Kakamega at 19, highs of 27 and lows of 15. Looking into Kampala, it's raining at 20, highs of 24, highs of 31 in a mostly sunny Dar es Salaam, currently at 25. And it's sunny at 12 in Johannesburg, highs of 21 and lows of 8, while it's mostly clear in Lagos at 26, highs of 32. 31 will be the high in a mostly sunny Kinshasa, currently at 23.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to
Today's that day when
Spice
there will not be too much of that. All your bypass is looking pretty good, and most of your roads heading in and out of the city centre. That little hiccup that we saw right around North Airport Road, not a problem at all. A little bit of still movement coming out of South Sea and then connecting with Mombasa Road, but apart from that, really nothing to write home about. The dot of traffic that normally is on Waiyaki Way this morning not showing up today, so it's good stuff. Keep an eye on things through the morning on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
It's
done
25
right.
minutes to 9. The conversation
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Latiff and Okoh, CT Muga, and our guest, Martin Chomba, the national chairman of the Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya, telling us about this part of the oil industry in the country that contributes to 50% of the volume moved domestically and 68% of all the pumps and outlets in the country. But you're treated as the small boys because they are big boys. And the big boys have leeway and say on very many things. For example, the big boys are the ones who are able to participate in the open tender system. They're able to buy. They're able to get the product into the country. When the product gets into the country, we were told by the Director General of IPRA the other day that there is allocation, even in storage, according to a market share. So you people with 50% market share, you are not factored into this whole allocation of who gets what, how much storage do you get. You don't. You only get to buy from the big boys, so to speak.
Yes.
So 50% of the volume comes from the big boys who control just about 32% of the pumps.
Yes.
And they sell to you
Yes.
to go and take the 68% of the pumps.
Correct.
Isn't it interesting, Eric, that what we are referring to the non-franchised is actually not true. They're not non-franchised. They are franchised. Yet, they have muscle which they don't use.
That's true.
Why?
Because they say if a chicken keeps the company, if an eagle keeps the company of chicken, it will forever live thinking that it cannot fly. Up until that time, that pressure comes and it flaps its wings. And then lo and behold, realizes it can fly. So for the longest time, we have not been organized in a way. We've been looked at in a... For example, let me give you just an example. It's not just us. It's just the way society is socialized. You realize even in the global terms, the global north, there's a way they have viewed the global south, and that has characterized the way the global south perceives themselves to be.
Yep.
So in the same context that we've been looked down upon for so long, people have described us as goons and people who are not able to organize themselves and treat themselves well, to an extent that people literally believed so. So it came to a point when we realized that some of us, when we don't have fuel, we can feel, even before the public feels there's a problem, because it comes to you when it overspills. We could feel and tell something is wrong. So then we started realizing our role and importance in the industry. And that's how now we came up and stood up for what should be ours rightfully, because we are members of this republic and we have the best interest of our country at heart. Everybody else will come and go. We shall remain Kenyans. So what we are doing currently is to try bit by bit to edge ourselves and get ourselves into that space, such that when the decisions of this industry are made, we are considered. And we are not just considered as the others. We are considered as the part and parcel of the main table. Because at the dinner table, you are either the meal or the guy eating.
Or the guy eating the meal. So in this case, because it is clear here that in this game,
yes,
big boys or not, that... it is the hard cash then that really calls who sits at the table.
Yeah.
Right?
Money answereth all things.
Absolutely. So here you are and you want to be a member of this OTS and you want to be there saying, we're going to demand then to have a place at the table. You've got to have the cash that comes along with the demand. And you're also saying at the same time that whether or not you're controlling 50%, it is clear that in terms of provision of this hard cash, you don't have it at the time then to be able to call how things will run, and which is one of the bones of contention that you have.
Yes.
How then could you possibly make it work if you don't have the money to then call the tune?
Now this is where it gets interesting. You see, petroleum is the bedrock, is the spine of the economy. So when we're talking about the economy, we're talking about national security interests. Okay? So it is not just our concern. It is in the interest of the government to facilitate sufficient facilitation of the independent market to be endowed with resources and ability, including affirmative action, towards getting this product to the rural areas. Because it's only then that the government can sit back and say, we are safe. So it is not just us. So what is happening is, we've been in talks with the ministry and EPRA, and they have outlined and they have shown the willingness to give us some concessions in terms of affirmative action to help us get to that place of having our product on in our pumps in a clear and consistent way. So basically, that's what we are pursuing.
We have a situation here,
yes,
where the big boys have actually had you selling their products for them.
Okay.
See, the others will give to you.
Yes.
Now you want to get your own product to sell.
Yes.
Does this not interfere with the arrangement you have with the big boys?
Now, it may be uncomfortable a bit, but there are other factors that makes the big boys sell to us. Remember, they are under no obligation to sell to us.
No, they're not under any obligation.
Yeah, so the reason why they sell to us is a number of things. Our market is a cash price market. Okay, it is not the contract that you have with most companies that they'll pay you after 45 days, after 90 days. We buy on the spot market. So it is cash. We deliver to them what they need in terms of a cash flow. So it is very, very important, and it is also in their interest. Instead of going to borrow money from the bank, say for instance, I'll tell you what happens at their depots. Today they wake up in the morning, they have a product that they have just been discharged at Mombasa terminal. And they need to clear duty. So to clear duty, you need a couple of millions. And the only arrangement you can have is either sell to me, I give you that cash, or go to the bank and get some credit. Yeah. So when you sell to me what you have, you don't incur the cost of financing as opposed to going to the bank. So they come to us for quick fix in terms of money.
And cheaper.
So you're their source of operating
liquidity.
Capital.
Yes, liquidity. That cash flow.
Nice.
You always find, even when we are in the thick of things, there are those moments towards end month, maybe when they want to pay salaries or that, or they need to pay duty or they need to pay something. They always say, hey guys, I have kidogo product here at this price. So in like 2 hours, the product is done and they have their cash and they say, mafuta imeisha.
But is it sustainable?
It is not sustainable.
Okay.
It is in the long run. It's not sustainable, and that's why I'm saying we'll have to squeeze ourselves in, and everybody fits to where they're supposed to be. Because we can also not have this relationship whereby they have this predatory behavior, and we are scavengers in the market. That is also not sustainable because literally what we do is to scavenge for what is left.
But Bwana Chomba, it has taken this situation that we had not too long ago for even this discussion that we're having with you to be had. What that tells me is that members of your association have been comfortable with the arrangements that you had.
Let me say this with all humility. Our industry is comprised of people who have differentiated levels of understanding and capabilities. Unlike the multinationals, where you fetch for the top brains, what our people, most of them are the guys in the villages who are looking to eke a living. They are doing this to earn a shilling, to eat, or to take their kids to school. Their levels of education and exposure notwithstanding, they find themselves in this business. So most of them have not been cultured or socialized to the importance of coming together or looking for your space. You remember there's something they'll teach out there about power distance. There are people who are very good at low power distance and others are high power distance. So you'll find that most of those guys that we deal with have been very comfortable being very far from the decision that be. And they have been socialized like that unless the government sit down and decide about you, you have no power. You have no power. But we are coming to tell them, look, I was one of them. Luckily, by the grace of God, I didn't go very far in school, up to high school. Then later on, I've taken myself to school, graduated the other day, and did my master's and graduated last year. So I have come to realize that there are things that if you don't blow your own trumpet, others will not even realize that you have one, leave alone blowing it for you. Okay? So we are now in that space. We are saying, hey guys, we are here. Okay? And we are the guys who are holding you. So if you let us go, then you are gone. And that is what is happening. That is what now has been the reason why these guys have been very quiet.
What is this thing that you're going to tell your members that will be an incentive and that will get them to understand that this new position that you're advocating for will be better than what they already have?
You see, once bitten, twice shy. These guys have gone for months without product when we were having issues. A lot of them right now are very receptive to the idea of steady and consistent supply. Because we are telling them, we have to have you with us so that you can be the downstream, so that whatever product we bring in, because we don't have other outlets, you are assured that what comes in, the number of shares you have within our circle guarantees the number of liters that comes in for you. You see the way other circles do, the ones who buy themselves, piki and whatever, or you get a loan, depending on the numbers of your shares. Our arrangement is that in our circle right now, which we are launching within the month of June, is that those numbers guarantees you the number of shares you have. If you are a trader in some place in Kaldonzweni and you have 10 shares, what is equivalent to 10 shares in terms of fuel that we bring in is what will always be your throughput. So they are coming to own the business literally, and this is an incentive enough for them so that they don't have to live on scavenging. We may not in the immediate cover all our throughput, but at least we have a certain percentage that will guarantee our people that they have product enough in their pumps.
Why I asked the question
is
because what you're saying makes sense.
Okay.
It makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
But there is a downside to it.
Okay.
You have a crisis that you've been dealing with, and that in itself is incentive enough for people to start thinking. Then there's a phase where they will become comfortable again.
It's true. You've been around long enough. I see you know how that happens.
Yes.
That happens quite a lot.
And when they become comfortable,
yeah,
you will have problems that you don't currently have.
Yeah.
And now they'll be at your doorstep, and you can't transfer the problem to some other entity and say, it's these guys. Because the guys will now be you.
Yes. So what we've done, in our group, it's not just, you don't just join the group. We vet you. And our group is that it is a paid group. So you have stakes.
So it's paid membership.
Paid membership. You have stakes within the group, such that when we bring in fuel, you see, there's this notion that our independent dealers are known to like to go for weddings, but when funerals come, they disappear. It is what you're saying, and they leave you with your corpse out there. So what we are saying, this is what has incentivized us to make sure that it's a paid-up group where you contribute money. So if you are going to forfeit the product because now it's expensive and somebody else has brought something cheaper, then you'll be forfeiting your
own rights.
Your own rights within the organization. And there's a trend. There's a way you observe trends in the market. And I can tell you where we are headed right now. And it will not be long from now. Is that you see those single pumps. We've talked with EPRA and Kenya Bureau of Standards to give us standards that are requisite to allow for that pump to operate, because safety standards as such. Very, very soon, you'll find, including the so-called big boys, looking for those pumps to brand. You see the way we have now banks in the mtaani. You see the way the agencies of this world, of the telecommunication industry, going to every corner of this country and having their brand there. That is not long coming for this industry. Very, very soon.
There's something that you said, Martin, and this is with regards to the regulation of this market and the importance of the energy sector, not just for economy, but for national security.
Yes.
And I guess this is what informed the government to come in there and start tightly regulating the market, putting in place the wholesale cap, bringing together the oil marketers and saying we are going to have an open tender system so we know who's bringing the product and how much product we need so that it gets into the system. Blah, blah. Then there are those who have sat back and argued, look, this thing, this whole over-regulation by the government is what is also leading to the problems that we're having. We should be having an open market system where the dogs have their say and the cats can meow.
They have their day.
Want. Okay. Look at, for example, what Dr. Momo Moinde is saying on Twitter. It's a futile exercise for the government to collect a tax, to hoard profit margins for oil dealers and marketers, and purport to reimburse the same tax. Simple business logic is to suspend the targeted taxes and pump prices automatically. This scheme is a scandal in the making. He's not the only one. There are those who have said, remove this IPRA price regulation, remove the wholesale cap, remove the petroleum development levy. We don't need to contribute so that you can be stabilizing the market. Let the market stabilize itself. What do you say?
I agree to the extent that I am not a student of economics, but the little I know is that it is very hard to have a command economy on one side and a free market on the other end. The nexus thereof has a lot of disjoints. In this, that we have a command economy in terms of the government makes sure that you source this product at this price and you sell it at this price. But at the pump, we are supposed to be a free economy.
Supposed to be competing.
Yeah, you're supposed to be competing. So the forces of demand and supply.
You're introducing contradicting systems.
Yes. Yeah, and those systems cannot work in any market economy. So to the extent that we for there to be competition, I would advocate, and this has been our advocacy as a group, that we understand from the national security issue that the states need to know that how much fuel is in this country at every given time. But to mitigate that, because if people were left to bring the product at will, maybe nobody would be obligated to bring this to have product for the state. We have National Oil Corporation that has, in one way or the other, in the past, mismanaged. Because our argument as an organization has been, if you want to regulate the prices at the pump, don't tell people how much to sell. Enable the national marketer, which is National Oil, to bring in as much product as possible in the country and have them regulate the price. Because if they have a cheaper price in the market, then other guys will try to compete with them and lower their prices as well.
That was what their purpose role. They were intended to be. The very thing you're saying is what they were supposed to do.
Yes.
To stabilize the market.
Yes. So to that is what have been our advocacy. Because the pricing regime hinders growth in terms of it doesn't matter how much you give yourself into the market, your margins are predetermined. Okay? You'd rather go into the market knowing there can be ups and downs depending on how well you strategize yourself and maximize on your margins, as the public also maximizes or in terms of the gains from the demand and supply.
Would argue, Martin, that it is because of this price regulation that we have seen the proliferation and growth of you guys, the non-franchise, the independents. It's because, even if you come up with a single pump, somewhere in Kimana or Loitoktok, you will sell at the same price as somebody else who is branded.
8.
It's because of that. There's some sort of guarantee that if I invest, so my margins are protected. The return to my investment is also protected. Isn't that so?
But let me look at it from this other side. If the market was unregulated, we would have most of these foreign multinationals compete, break their leg, competing to make sure that they empower the guys at the grassroots to increase their throughput. And this will give rise to these people. It's just like if most of these big telecommunication, they go out there in the villages and they empower that person because they want to sell their Airtel, whatever they want to sell. They make sure that person is empowered so that he can sell.
But Bwana Chomba,
yes,
there is a downside to this. That's what we hope they would do. But they can also collude.
They can collude.
Yes, but in many cases they do.
But the good thing about it is that we have local OMCs. So many, you see within the open tender system today, there are close to 100 of them. And the bulk of those are local. But their growth is curtailed because your allege, what you can bring into the country, must be commensurate
with your
to your
market
throughput.
share.
Yeah, your market share. Okay. So that also gags them, also the local. They are not able to grow because you only grow when you're able to prove that your throughput is bigger than what you had last month. And this is either you increase your pump networks or something like that, which is also a bit constraining to the local investors.
But how is it so when we have devolution? There's a reason why I'm asking this question. You see, with the devolution, you've essentially cascaded and devolved certain functions that governments have.
Yeah.
And in so you also devolved finances.
Yes.
So the counties have more money than they've ever had, which means it translates into the local area, that small unit also has more money than it has ever had, which means these very businesses that you're talking about are able to sell more. everything you've spoken about with regards to tuk-tuks and motorbikes and sientas, they have risen because there is money. People have money to travel.
Yes.
So really.
And that has given also rise to our market share.
Yes.
And now the thing is, this market share we have where to sell.
Yes,
but
you do.
where to source is what is the product, is the problem.
Now, you've gone to the heart of the matter. When people look for money, usually, one of the things you put into your proposal is explain how it is you think you are able to raise this money. That already exists. It is clear.
Yes.
It's not something you need to conjure up, okay? I like what you're saying with the progress that you're making. I even like everything that you've said. I actually would like to see a situation where you people are the genuinely big boys and the multinationals are struggling to catch up with you. There's no reason why it can't happen.
Agreed.
Just really quickly, one group of people that we've not talked about is clearly those who are mopping, who are buying the fuel on a daily. Kenyans. The joke was passed the other day. Even if you make it 250, let's know what it is, but let it be readily available. So here we are, and the question is: so what happens today? What happens tomorrow? Every now and then it pops up that there's a scarcity. What is the situation on the ground right now, and what can Kenyans be assured of?
The situation on the ground is that. Now this product, we had a series of meetings last week but one, with the ministry and the multinationals and now the petroleum dealers. The situation, the geopolitical situation in Russia has really exacerbated the issue we have, because the prices, as I think as early as today, as late as today, the price per barrel was about 107. And we about 3 months ago, we were selling product in Kenya that was being procured at $80-something dollars per barrel, sometimes to as low as 75. So we are expecting that the prices are not coming down very, very soon. But what is happening, I can tell the public right now, is that the arrangement we have had and the talks we have had is that the product that was being taken for export, for instance, the immediate kind of respite we have is that last week the government through the ministry directed that 2 vessels that has about 200 kilotons of fuel, diesel and super, be localized, be put for local use, so that it can now address the issue we have as they bring in other vessels. That it is a special way. It is not the way it is usually done at the OTS, because when a vessel comes into the country, there's supposed to be 60-40% ratio export to local ratio. So what they have done is that they have said that we localize 40 all of that product that is way over 200 million liters, and of that 20 million liters have been designated for the independent market. So to try and see that the rural area is taken care of.
So the situation should normalize.
But 200 million liters is half of what we consume in a month.
Wow.
As I told you, we almost consume about 400 million liters. So this is now dependent on what else is being done to make sure that this now continues. But as it were, right now, we can proudly say that from Wednesday, we are likely to see normalcy in terms of supply.
Martin, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll invite you again for more and more conversations. Martin Chomba is the Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya National Chairman. He's been here with us. We've been live also on KTN Home. Conversations continue on SpiceFM. It's 9 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Wangari. Jubilee Party Vice Chairman David Murathe now claims William Ruto was an afterthought candidate for deputy president position in the run-up to the March 4th, 2013 general election. Murathe said after Uhuru Kenyatta and team formed the National Alliance TNA party, they had settled on Eugene Wamalwa as Kenyatta's running mate. However, TNA agreed to have William Ruto serve as deputy president so as to bridge apparent hostility between Kenyatta's community and that of Ruto. ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi has told President Uhuru Kenyatta to desist from blaming his deputy William Ruto for the harsh economic times facing Kenyans. Mudavadi said Uhuru should have inspired Kenyans with his Labour Day speech instead of attacking his deputy for allegedly abandoning him. Mudavadi spoke in Kapseret during a Thanksgiving event in Nandi County. He led a team comprising of Kenya Kwanza that had been hosted by Nandi Governor Stephen Sang at Kapseret Showgrounds. The president accused Ruto of abdicating his duty and instead spending his time inciting people against him and pointing at the failures of the government.
Tusidanganyane. Ukweli wa mambo, president atueleze ni lini aliitisha full cabinet. The last time he called the full cabinet of Kenya. If you have not solved the problems of Kenya, surely you are not going to solve them in the next less than 100 days. You just take it easy, know that you have done what you could do. Let the next government of Kenya Kwanza come in na tuanze kutoa suluhisho katika maisha ya
A Kenyan worker whose current minimum wage is 13,500 shillings will now get 15,120 shillings. This is after President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered the increase of minimum wage by 12 percentage points effective yesterday. The increase, which comes 4 years since the last review, is aimed at cushioning Kenyan workers from the high cost of living occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. During his final Labour Day speech at Nyayo Stadium on Sunday, the president responded to an earlier request by the Central Organization of Trade Unions Secretary General Francis Atwoli. Atwoli had asked the president to increase the minimum wage by 23%, prompting the head of state's response. ODM leader Raila Odinga has promised Nyeri residents goodies if elected president in August. Accompanied by more than 10 political leaders from the region, Raila promised to use the foundation stones laid by Kibaki and his successor Uhuru Kenyatta to build a modern country.
Hii mambo ya Thika Highway ilikuwa na moja miradi tulianzisha. Mimi nikawa waziri wa barabara na ujenzi. Ilichorwa kama chini ya usimamizi yangu. Thika Highway na zile bypasses ya Nairobi. Kwa nikuja mpaka hapa nini Marua. Ile ilikuwa ni safu ya kwanza. Sasa Uhuru akakuja akafuata nyayo ya Kibaki. Hiyo sasa natengenezwa na kuja hapa Marua. Itatoka hapa tutapeleka mpaka pite Nyanyuki mpaka shikane kule Moyali.
Raila spent the night in Nyeri after the burial of Kibaki in what he told the residents was in honor of the former president, whom he worked closely with. China's commercial capital of Shanghai was dealt a blow on Monday as authorities reported 58 new COVID-19 cases outside quarantine areas, while Beijing pressed on with testing millions of its people on a May Day holiday few were celebrating. Tough coronavirus measures in Shanghai have stirred a public uproar, with millions of the city's 25 million people confined indoors for more than a month. Some residents have been sealed inside fenced-off residential compounds and many struggling to secure daily necessities. That's your news at the top of the hour. My name is Stephanie Wangari.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Hakuna. This morning, not much in terms of traffic on the roads today. Wherever you go, I don't think you'll go into any headwinds. Bypass is looking pretty good as most parts of the city. Getting into the CBD will not be an issue today and probably, hopefully, for the whole day. Just keep an eye on things just in case. You never know. And then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who
6
believes
minutes
in
after
punching
9.
up,
How are you
not down.
doing? It's the second
This
day of
is the
March 2022. We are not crossing over into April. It was just a brief moment so that we can ensure that President Mwai Kibaki is buried on the proper date, the 30th of April. Now we are back to factory settings. We are back to March until President Uhuru Kenyatta launches this thing that he promised to launch by the end of March, and until power bills come down by a further 15% by the end of March, and very many other things that are supposed to happen in the first quarter of the year, right?
Yeah.
Until then, let's just operate like we're in March. It's the second day of March, so the president has some 29 days to get things rolling. City has the days. Proverb.
Yes, from the Central African Republic. When a monkey climbs a tree, its bottom becomes more exposed the higher it goes.
When a monkey
climbs a tree, its bottom becomes more exposed the higher it goes.
Na kama unajua chambilecho wahenga, nyani haoni. Yes. Ndu,
Sir?
when we were looking at the papers today,
Mm.
there are several stories, and we want to juxtapose one on the other. Start with what's happening in very many counties of Kenya.
All right, so we are looking at quite a number of counties who are at what they call the alarm stage. So what happens when you hear an alarm is that it goes off and then something needs to be done immediately, or things could go to the dogs, right? 7 counties at the alarms phase of drought, according to the Droughts and Food Security Report released on the 3rd of April. So it's not something we're talking about 6 months ago. Current. 7 counties, including Marsabit, Samburu, Turkana, Wajir, Baringo, Isiolo, and Mandera, have been worst hit by the drought and are at the alarm phase. Now, add to that, there are 10 other counties that are at the alert phase. So, blinders up and trying to figure out what's going on here. They're probably going to get to that point unless something is done. We looked at the story of Bulo. And then we also looked at the story of Lenges, who lost his wife to hunger. He basically watched her die. Let's look at the story of Mabeta Habara, who is 45. Tragedy struck her family in 1999 when her husband died, leaving her with 2 children. She ended up being inherited by her brother-in-law, right? She had 6 more children with him. Having inherited more than 30 cattle and
In
about...
which county is this?
We're still in the same county, North Turkana. All right.
So her husband dies in 99,
Yes.
leaves her with 2 children.
Yes.
She's inherited by her husband's brother.
Yes.
And she has how many kids with him?
6.
Whoa.
So now they've got 8 children.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
The assumption is that brother-in-law had no other children, but we cannot assume. But that's the assumption. Her children.
Let's just go with her children.
Her children are 8.
Okay.
Okay? They had 30 cattle and about 100 goats and sheep. She found solace in knowledge that her children would never lack. I mean, come on. You've got some 150, right? Our livestock never lacked pasture. They were well fed, produced a lot of milk. We had plenty of meat. My brother-in-law helped feed the children. Now all, not a little, not half, all the pasture is gone. I have no cattle except for a few goats, and my brother-in-law can no longer provide. To make a living, Mabeta fetches and sells water and reeds used to build manyatas. I think we overgrazed our cattle on the land, and when the drought came, they couldn't get anything to feed on, and they died. Last year, we lost so many livestock that the air stank of death. At home, 15 mouths wait on her, so there you go. 7 of those are her 5 grandchildren from her 2 eldest sons and their mothers. A ration that would provide 2 meals for Bulo is only enough for a single meal at her house. However, she doesn't regret being inherited or bearing more children. I wanted more children, she goes on to talk about that. But she talks about the biting drought. Now, she gets a cash transfer of 3,000 from the government. She says it doesn't last. 15 mouths to feed, I buy food, which, because of our large family, only lasts about a week. We then have to wait for another 2 months before they get another transfer. And the transfer was supposed to be how frequent?
It's monthly.
Okay. We will still depend on the government. We hope they never tire of feeding us. We only wish that the government would raise that amount to maybe 20,000 shillings to enable us sustain our large families. Now look at something here that's very interesting that she said. We depended on our cattle on the land. Our cattle fed on the land. We depended on our cattle for food and also for other kinds of sustenance, because we would either sell the produce, whether it was meat or milk, or we would use that for ourselves. Now it is gone completely. Either the cattle have died, the very little that we have left cannot give us anything because they have nothing to feed on. The very thing that you would have lived on, you would not have depended on anybody else for anything. You do not have that anymore. And this is one story. Hundreds of thousands of other Kenyans are in the same position, if not worse today. We read a story just 2 hours ago of a man who watched his wife die, not from disease, not from injury, but from hunger. Her body gave out, too weak to survive, and she died. If she was in that position, so was he. That you go to your daughter's house because they were in a part where they were able to receive a food ration, and then of course she would share with her father. But she also had mouths to feed in the name of children and husband and extended family. The land can no longer give you sustenance. What you depend on now is rations when they come, and a food transfer program or cash transfer program, supposedly monthly, but now comes every 3 months. These are the people in this country, not in another country. This country, Kenya, within the four borders of this country, Kenya, we're talking about people in the hundreds of thousands in the alarm stage and more hundreds of thousands in the alert stage, very, very close to the alarm stage in Kenya today.
You know, we talk about these things like, they're just pieces of news here and there, like, a lion has breached and crossed over from the national park and gone into Langata Road, and KWS have come and taken it back, and it was a moment of some bit of scare, but it just went back. These stories of people who are facing hunger on a daily basis, people who, we can't even say that they woke up today, we don't even know whether they slept, people who don't know when and where their next meal is going to come from, people who are facing insecurity. These are stories that are happening in this country today, every waking day. And we are talking about millions of Kenyans who are exposed to this from various counties. On the 8th of September 2021, President Uhuru Kenyatta declared the ongoing drought a national disaster. Okay? Stamped it there and said, this is a national disaster and we need to mobilize funds, we need to mobilize resources, we need to come together and bring in all the concerted effort towards addressing this issue. What else happened? The next thing that happened is the government, he instructed the National Treasury and the Ministry of Interior and coordination of national government to make sure that 2 billion shillings is released so that it can go and start feeding these people. And of course, coordination of national government is the one that is going to ensure that this one is working. The other conversations that should have been happening is now resource mobilization. How much money do we need to feed these people? Can the government raise this money both locally and internationally from other well-wishers? Go right out there and say, we need this support. Mobilize so that this becomes a national conversation on a daily basis, that we have Kenyans among us who don't know what they're going to eat or drink today. This should be the daily conversation. When something small, when something major happens, like 2 power pylons collapse in Imara Daima, they put the country into a national blackout for a couple of hours. The president addresses this, says, I need to see action. The minister in charge of energy and the Kenya Power Board and all, they come together, and the DCI and the Director of Public Prosecutions and everybody.
People are arrested and put on the docks.
And this is addressed.
Yes.
There's a story today in the papers about these guys who deal with scrap metal. They are still complaining because they were told, you guys, no business. Shush. They still haven't come back to business to date. Okay? Action taken, swift action. People are dying. Well, yeah. We shall organize this. I mean, we shall do this. I mean, let's flag off this. The person who's in charge of, this disaster, national and special programs now, it has moved from Ministry of Devolution. It has gone to the Ministry of Gender and Special Programs and what else is Professor in charge of? Very many things. So he's in charge of Professor Kobia. I don't know what. The government spokesman now, you look for him, Colonel Cyrus Oguna, he's out there, just trying to coordinate. But in terms of national effort and national focus, I personally don't feel like the people who are going hungry are appearing somewhere in the minds of our national leaders.
I said the cash transfer program that is supposed to be happening on a monthly basis. This lady said when the money comes, it's 3,000 shillings for her 15-member family, and that money is gone in a week. So if your hope would be that it would come next month, sorry, because it doesn't. It will come after another 2 months, the one that's supposed to be monthly. So when you talk about coordination, that all eyes are not clearly on the ball, that nobody's even thinking, okay, even this thing that you had instituted to make sure that the most vulnerable in society have something to fall back on, even that one is not working.
And this
How do you have a drought-stricken area? You know the rains have failed, number one. Okay, geographical issues you could not control.
Could not go to Ukraine.
You couldn't control. However, the circumstances that disaster has presented, guess what? You can do something about it. So, if you ask me, then it is a choice. You choosing not to do something about the fact that close to 1 million Kenyans are going to die of hunger. I mean, how much more serious does it need to get?
So what happened yesterday at where was this? Nyayo Stadium? At Nyayo Stadium, where the Labor Day celebrations were taking place. And what the president said and the reactions and responses thereafter were a trigger for me. Because I looked at, so the president talked about the very many things that his government has done and what the government is planning to do. For example, he talked about during this COVID period, we made sure that our government workers do not go hungry, do not get pay cuts and all. We did this, we did the other. But we've seen the rising food prices across the country. And then he turned it around politically and said, you know what? As we are trying to do all these things, as we're trying to manage and juggle all the balls in the air, there's one of us who decided to play politics with it. And this is the deputy president. He said, what? The deputy president, instead of thinking of how we can address this issue, has been going out there trying to incite the public against the government that he serves. This is what the president said verbatim. He said, badala ya kunisaidia kuona wananchi watasaidika vipi, yuko kule sokoni na matusi na unajiita kiongozi. Si uondoke bwana, nitafute mtu mwingine. Among the very many things that he said. And it was clear, he was saying, look, here we're trying to work. And my principal assistant is out there. Instead of working, he's doing what? He's politicking. And instead of working, he's doing what? He's sponsoring hashtags. Hashtag food prices. What was that hashtag?
Lower food prices.
Hashtag lower food prices. Calling a press conference and talking about the shortage of fuel in the country. Calls a media conference to address and says, this government is really failing. Look at the shortage of fuel. Oh, the government is really failing. Look at the rising cost of... Instead of you coming up with the ideas to help me. What does the deputy do? The deputy turns it around again. It's like a boomerang. Sorry, my boss, I feel your pain. Those you assigned my responsibilities and Project Mzee have let you down miserably. They bungled our Big Four, they killed our party, and they wasted your second term. Why? Wao ni bure kabisa. Boss, I'm available. Just a phone call away. Sadly, the last cabinet was 2 years ago. And he signs off as Yule number 2. Basically, they've just brought their rant to the public.
Yes.
And they're treating us to this new drama. Okay? Let me remind you that both men are not paying rent today. They haven't paid rent for the last 9 years. Both men, okay? Because we house them. Both men and their families do not even know how much tomatoes cost. Talk about rising fuel prices, they don't know. You talk about rising cost of kitungu, they don't know. You talk about rising cost of unga. They don't know why, because we buy it for them.
Or that there's an availability of milk. I have no idea.
They have absolutely no clue. The president and his deputy and their families are fed and clothed. Well, I'm not sure about clothing. Are fed and housed. Fed and housed by us.
When you pay.
There are people out there who are not being fed by us. We collectively as Kenyans, we are not feeding them. We are not giving them water. We are not housing them because they are insecure. They are sleeping under trees or in thickets. The people who should be focusing on making sure that those millions are eating today, instead of focusing on that, they're squabbling on who has dropped the ball, or who had the ball, or which ball were you given, or which ball did you, or which court did you go to? No, I was supposed to be in court A, you went to court C. What absolute nonsense are we being treated to here?
You know, in 2008, there was a review, an analysis of existing drought risks and the reduction policies and programs in Kenya. There was a national report that came out of it. And this was sponsored by a UN body that many people don't know about, but the United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reductions. And they really went to town on this matter. And they looked at every aspect of what can be done and how it can be mitigated with regards to what? Drought. Whether it's agriculture, whether it is forestry, whether it is, you name it, it was looked at. And possible solutions and suggestions that were made as to what can be done were in that report. As I said, a very, very extensive report. This is one of many reports that have been prepared in this country with regard to the problems that we have regarding drought. The conversations that I hear, and I would have hoped to hear, was a follow-up on these very extensive projects, where someone says, the suggestions that we heard or were written and that were proposed have been cascaded to the various ministries, and this is what the ministries have been doing over time. And remember, the people who were talked to and the people who contributed were experts in the field. Yet, you don't hear of this. But what you do hear of are squabbles that at the very best almost sound childish. Childish in that when you are facing these monumental problems that we have within the country, problems that in themselves pose a risk to our security just because of the magnitude, these are addressed in statements and one-offs. And yet the things that we hear of continuously, and I dare say here I have to point at us as well in the media, because we also encourage this sort of discussion. We give them more time, more limelight than we ought to. That is what holds center stage. And this is what seems to be the primary conversation that we are having. A tiff between two leaders, as opposed to a rabid, or should I say rabid is a good word, but a vigorous discussion about how do we solve this seemingly never-ending problem about drought.
I dare say that they know.
I dare say they give the impression.
So this is a plan.
They know what...
This is diverting our attention.
Absolutely. They know the problem. They even know what to do about it. It's the same thing that we talked about earlier this morning. You have infrastructure projects that have been laid down. You know what needs to happen to give fuel to those projects. Here you are. This Marsabit, this northern Turkana, this Wajir Baringo issue of food and drought did not start in 2022.
No.
It did not start in 2021. It did not start in 2020, 2019. Go back 10, 20 years. Geographically inclined, this area of the country, because of where they lie, you will have these issues year on year. The rains are likely to fail, but what do you do when you do have the rains? What do you do when you do have a source of water? Have you heard even the dams that they ate? Did you hear that they wanted to have government projects whereby they dammed the water that was available? Did you hear?
Damned. Do you hear of even collecting the water? Because it does rain at some point.
This is what I'm saying. At some point it rains. And enough to collect. enough water to collect. And what I'm saying, because somebody might say I'm talking about things that don't happen. There are places on this planet where water drops, literally. You know how when you haven't closed your tap properly and water drops like that, that is what they receive. But they are able, through some simple technology, to collect hundreds of thousands of liters of water and store it.
Yes.
Same earth, same human beings. So when I say that there is enough water to collect, I know what I'm talking about.
So ours isn't a lot. Ours is overabundant.
It's too much. It's too much water. Even if it rains 1 out of the 12 months of the year, it is enough to collect. Why is this not happening? Because some would say, so what would you have them do? The land is dry, it is barren, we don't have anything to do. There is something you can do. Why has this conversation not moved from conversation and complaining and relief food every now and then to implementation of things that could make sure that you get yourselves out of these issues? Why has that not happened? And this is the sole responsibility of government. It is. Well-wishers have been called upon, provide this. Okay, fine. In the meantime, while you're waiting for these grand and lofty ideas to happen, even the cash transfer programs that you said we put in place, even that cannot happen. The rations that you said you're going to provide, even that cannot happen with any kind of regularity. And so people are dying. Why is that happening?
We don't hear, even from these leaders. So yes, the president is campaigning for his brother Raila. Ruto is campaigning for himself. And they're all out there campaigning and talking about what they can do and what they cannot do and what they've done, what they've not been able to do. The equalization fund, as provided for in the Constitution, has not been operationalized. All right? Equalization fund would go directly to benefit these counties where people are sleeping hungry today.
Exactly.
Those are the counties that will be targeted by the equalization fund. And why is that so? Because for a very long time, these counties have not been benefiting or been developing at the same rate as other counties. And we can see the result of that. The result of that is that we've got low development, we've got poor infrastructure in the areas. We are not able to feed the people when slight shocks occur. There's no conversation about the equalization fund. There's no conversation about supporting these people because there are very many opportunities in these counties in terms of agriculture. We only talk about off-taking livestock during times of drought.
Even that
But do we talk about what we can do beyond off-taking livestock so that people have sustainable means of earning a living and livelihoods? We don't hear that. What we hear is people bickering about what you did, what you didn't do. We don't really care. The two of you saw an oath of office in broad daylight at Kasarani. Both of you saw an office to protect the Constitution, to protect the lives of Kenyans, to serve. And I agree with the president when he says, Ruto, you should have resigned. But also, Mr. President, if you felt that Ruto is not doing his job, you should have come out to the people. And I've said this many times. Come to the people and say, fellow Kenyans,
this fellow is not working.
This is the beef I have. This coming to tell us 3 months to the election, ukweli usemwe. Why now? Of what use is this ukweli now and you're giving it to us in bits and pieces? If you actually had a charge against your deputy, you should have come out to Kenyans and said, this is the problem I have with my deputy. If you as the deputy president, you had a problem and you're feeling that you're being sidelined, you should have come out clearly and said, this is it.
This expressway is not a legacy. This project in Lamu is not a legacy. These many infrastructure projects is not a legacy. The face of the people who are suffering from hunger today, that is what is imprinted on a legacy if you're not able to take care of them. The most vulnerable in society today, that is the face of the country. You want to say what you're leaving behind? Doesn't matter who it is. You want to say what you're leaving behind? That the hundreds of thousands of people who are suffering from hunger today, hunger. You see, look, rather be hit by a bus, but people are dying because they cannot feed, not because they're unable to swallow. There's nothing available for them to eat. That's the face of the country. You want to know the strength of a country? It's in the most vulnerable of society today. This picture of two men holding their heads, waiting for a ration to come that may not come on a hot afternoon, that's the face of the country.
You know, these hit and miss pronouncements about assisting or providing aid or making sure that you assuage a terrible situation. What happened to a plan? What happened to a vision of what it is that needs to be done so that come next year and the years that follow, this problem becomes with every year, a problem of the past. It recedes.
Gets better.
Yes. We have forest cover in this country that, well, it was diminishing. We are told it has increased somewhat. Okay? So what are we now at? 10%?
Yes.
Okay. Now, but so is the percentage of land in this country that's supposedly arable. You look at a continent like Australia, their arable land is just 4%.
Yeah.
Most of it is semi-arid. But what do they do with that land? They have some of the biggest cattle ranches on the planet. Meaning they know this cattle will survive well on this land.
Yep.
We, earlier on I said, we don't make use of the diversity of what we have. This land that you don't have to plant vegetables in every piece of land you have in the country. You can't. Actually, you can if you know what to plant. But that's really not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is the plans of what to do with what we have exist.
They're there. The blueprints are there.
They exist.
On what can be done in these areas, how you can transform them into livestock, into fattening, into feedlots, into...
And pilot schemes for these things also exist. Not will exist, they have existed. Why is that not the center of our discussion, really?
Why are we talking about who went where and who didn't do what?
Why? Why is it that everything that is even started that is supposed to alleviate this very, very problem, it is scuttled? You don't hear people being brought to book. There's a lot of heat, a lot of discussion, a lot of movement, and then it dies.
What you do here is folks who said, in my years, in my lifetime, where I have gone, I have never seen a project that has failed like this. It's okay. Let me carry my load and go back to Israel where they sent me from.
Yes.
That's what you hear.
28 minutes to 10. Let's take a quick break and take a look at the traffic and weather. Now, remember, we are working with Colgate and well boring to raise money so we can sink 30 wells by the end of this calendar year. Remember, if we are not yet in April, there's time. But walk into Naivas today, buy Colgate, and 10 shillings out of that purchase will go towards sinking the 30 wells. These wells are being sunk by well boring in association with Colgate in schools. And you know why. Because schools are not just private entities, they are community entities. When you have a well in a school, then the water is available to the school community and to the entire neighboring community. And this is what Colgate has been doing. So far, they've sunk 90 wells. They have benefited hundreds of thousands of people. And they're saying if we do 30 more in these 9 counties, we're going to benefit even more people. That's what they're asking you to join in that effort. Just walk into Naivas, buy Colgate, and then you will benefit from it. 27 to 10.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play.
Smoking shisha and releasing things on your smoke like a Subaru. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. And you want God to give you a man who has a mission and a vision.
You may create an illusion of because he's younger, he's interested in me or he likes me, but he's using me.
Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from adults in the room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
The adults in the room.
Whether it's your graduation,
I love you too.
or your engagement day. For those unlimited moments, nothing can capture them better than the new Oppo Reno 7 AI triple camera. Or step up your selfie game with the ultra-sensing selfie camera and save them all with the 256 GB memory space. Comes in exquisite fiberglass leather design in sunset orange that will definitely get your friends talking. The brand new Oppo Reno 7. Unlimited me in portrait.
All right, cloudy conditions. Sun is coming out. However, in Nairobi, we'll see highs of 23 and lows of 15 today. At 19, it's mostly cloudy. In Nakuru, highs of 24. 24 will also be the high in Nyeri. The rain continues to come down at 19. And Eldoret is sunny at 18. Cloudy conditions for most of the morning, though, highs of 22. Light rain continues in Mombasa at 29, highs of 31. And we'll see highs of 31. Rain showers as well in Malindi. Okay, we're seeing mostly cloudy conditions in Kisumu, highs of 28 and lows of 19, while Kakamega is raining now at 23, highs of 27 and lows of 15. Kampala raining at 21, and we'll see highs of 24 and lows of 19. Partly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam, and we'll see highs of 31 and lows of 24. Joburg, 13 degrees and sunny, highs of 21. It's mostly sunny in Lagos at 25, highs of 32, and in DRC, Kinshasa, 23, highs of 31 and lows of 23. It's sunny at 25, warming up considerably in Beijing, highs of 26, and Paris is sunny at 9, highs of 18. 17 will be the high in a cloudy London at 10, and 13 degrees, still Sunday night in New York coming into Monday. We'll see highs of 15 and lows of 10. Not much going on this morning on the streets of Nairobi and other towns across and cities across the country are asleep. So that means that, traffic will not be too much of an issue today. Fingers crossed and knock on wood. But let's talk through the day just in case anything does happen. Let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
FM. It is 23 minutes to 10, Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. We want to talk about Samsung.
So, the big news is that the awesome new Galaxy A series range has arrived. And it's taking awesome to a whole new level. Those selfies you like to take, CT, don't worry, I won't tell anybody. You can do it now with the A33's 48MP camera, the A53's 64MP camera, and the A73's 108MP camera. So you can capture these things in great quality. And there's a 2-day battery, so you can take pictures for 2-3 days, and it'll keep giving you awesome, and it'll go longer and longer. So even if you don't have the A33, A53, or A73, you can do a trade-in and get a new one and figure out what's going on. Taking awesome to a new level.
Some big thing. There was the Samsung guy who came to show us take us through the cameras. And this phone city has 4 cameras at the back.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 4.
So I can program them to take 4 different pictures at the same time.
That's what they'll be doing.
All right.
Of the same thing.
Of the same thing.
And combining them, and it gives you one composite image.
You can even take the thing and do like this. And those things you've captured, it'll take pictures of all of them and deliver them to 15. Boom.
So the main camera is 48 megapixels. It's in the middle. It supports optical image stabilization, OIS. You're shaking hands. Stabilizes because of
so you can shake all you want.
You can shake
That's
all
up
you
to
want.
You.
Then there's a middle one, the ultra wide camera. So it's for wide angles. You choose wide angle, it takes depth lens. If you want, very focused images, this one. Macro, it sees those things that you just don't see in the human eye. Granular.
Why do I get the impression that in buying this thing, I'm actually buying a camera that also provides telephonic services?
Yes.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
The Samsung new A series, it's basically camera. And then now you can call with this camera. You can get email with this. You can send messages with the camera.
So now, since it has this camera, so capacity a webcam, so that when I'm talking to somebody, they can also see me and I can see them.
Big time.
There a long time.
Big time. It has a front camera. It's a 13 megapixels. The one that for selfie.
Yeah.
That one you like?
There. That one. So that I can see who I'm talking to and they can also see me.
They can see you.
Okay.
Big stuff. And because you have an old Samsung and you want to trade in with a new Samsung, You just go to Samsung.
Is there an age limit? I mean, how old must it be?
How old must the person
the trade-in that I want to... I'm not trading myself, folks. I'm trading the camera.
The phone.
Yes, not phone. Me. I am not there. I'm not being traded in for anything.
You go with
that I can get a new version.
Go with your old phone.
They'll tell you what can happen.
They'll tell you. They look at it, they tell you, yeah. So for this one, vile umeitumia hii boss.
Okay, just want to ask, must the phone be working? I mean, it's there, but must it be working? And if it's working, in what working condition must it be in?
Hii vitu ni kuongea.
It's in Kenya?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kila kitu ni ya kuongea.
Hii vitu ni kuongea. You just bring your old phone. Right. We talk.
So, we see.
Yeah, and you can trade in and then get the new.
Trade in the phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Not, yes, please.
Yes. The new Samsung A series. Back to the conversation that we're having. Julia is saying, may I have you know that while those Kenyans are dying of starvation, Kenyans in other parts of the country have no market for their potatoes, for their carrots, for their cabbages, etc., etc. These being perishable, these farmers are willing to give these ones out for free. But how do they do it? I mean, you have harvested your cabbages. We know where the cabbages are coming from, okay? Do you have cold chain, cold storage in these areas? Zero, nada, not developed at all. Do you have cold chain in transportation? Do you have like cold chain? No, they're put in those open trucks. So, as long as you've harvested that cabbage, its shelf life is just ticking.
It's reducing with every passing day.
Yes.
So as its value
so it takes
reduces.
time to get to the market, spoils. And yet we are talking about people in other parts of this country who are hungry. And we have a government that is a unitary government for the whole of this country.
It's a paradox of the existence of people, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And we also have county governments that could also look into some of these matters, because these produces that we're talking about are nestled in certain counties.
Yes.
Do we know of any efforts that are being made to ensure that the value of these products surely are maintained? We know how that ought to be done. Are we saying that we are having a problem finding a place to take these excess products?
Yes.
And yet people need them.
I said in Githunguri they were throwing away milk. Throwing, as in, because there was a glut. The cow, it had rained, it was nice. The cows were happy, they were producing milk. They were throwing milk away. What happened to the dehydration of milk to make powder? What happened to making now solid form so that you could now use it later? What is powdered milk that you can now reconstitute and use later? Do we talk about things like that? There is somebody in this country today who won an award who said, we just didn't get the opportunity to interview, but we're told of her, whose business has been founded on waste product from mangoes. She doesn't take the fleshy mango. She takes the one that has been wasted, the one that will not be used. The waste. The waste is what she now takes and dries and exports. Food is being thrown away on a daily basis. Come on now, what are we talking about? In the olden days, how did people preserve their food? What are we talking about?
They learned how to dry them.
They dry their food and then you use it months later, not days, months later. The meat will be removed from the roof after it has been salted and be reconstituted into soup. What are we talking about?
In this country, like you're saying, as we look at those areas, for example, Nyandarua County, into Nakuru County, into Kiambu County, into these places where there's...
Into the
Rift Valley, right? So one of the things that the Jubilee administration is bragging about is electricity connectivity.
Yes.
And give it to them. Yes.
There is connectivity.
There is connectivity.
Yes.
Which means that there is power, which means that it's possible to actually set up cold storage.
Yes.
Harvest cabbages, harvest tomatoes, harvest carrots, put them in this particular store.
Everybody knows you can freeze
the cooperative
dry, fresh
movement
food.
In this country is known. Has been there. So farmers just forming cooperatives and setting up the storage and then bringing their produce there, and it stays there as you move it to the next level, as you move it into processing at that initial first level stage. These things could all be done at county level and as government national programs. Are there blueprints for this? Yes. We are talking about people not being able to access food. Is it possible for us to actually have made sure that this food can get to the market? Yes. What is food and nutrition security? Food and nutrition security is about access and affordability. Access is it there? Is it next to you?
Availability, does it exist? Yes, it does.
I'm sorry, but there's nothing you can tell me about where you had something in excess and you cannot use it and store it for the future. There's nothing. You can't tell me.
Actually,
you can't tell me anything.
What we are being told is that they don't want to.
Yes, that's it. You don't have an
It's not
appetite
that they
to do
can't,
something
they
about
don't
it.
want
You can't. Name it. Name it. Even this livestock that we talked about, you guys, do you know how serious this thing is? 1.3 million head of cattle have died in the last 1 year.
And we have a government.
And all we're talking about is, okay, we only have one place called Kenya Meat Commission in Athi River. Okay? All these other places, blah, 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 blah. Surely, those animals don't have to come all the way to Athi River.
No, they don't. They do not.
To be slaughtered, for meat to be preserved, for example.
Where do those cows come from?
Come on. For meat to be
Predominantly,
preserved.
where do you find them?
In those areas.
That is where that Kenya meat ought to have been instituted.
We have a huge piece of land called Bachuma.
Yes.
It's meant to be for such issues.
It was purpose for such a thing.
Isiolo has been developing one for the longest time, so that it can also have a proper livestock offtake and processing facilities. With an airport there where we can even be exporting directly from the Isiolo International Airport to market.
We've built the airport. What are we using it for?
No, it's really pathetic when you think about the options of what could be done and you have the blueprint, it can be shown what you can do. There's nothing. Vegetables.
You know, if you want to understand how pathetic it is, just go to the lake and ask yourself how many cold storage facilities exist along Lake Victoria on the Kenyan side.
Yes.
Because we haven't stopped fishing. Ask yourself that simple question. And how many processing plants actually exist in that particular region? This is a raw material. This is a cash product that is found in the lake.
I said Norway. Norway sends a delicacy, what you call, it's called stockfish, right? Sends it to Nigeria almost on a, I think, fortnightly basis. In terms of geography, they're not just over the hill. They're quite a way away.
No, actually, that distance is something to talk about, yes.
I mean, just an example of some of the things that you can do, right? In terms of what you can do to you have fresh food, you freeze dry it. It can be done. If one person has done it, somebody else can do it. And that's what I'm saying. The excuses that are being given as to why people are dying of hunger. And listen, even when they have the money, the food is not available for them to buy. It's not there. So what can you do about the situation? And that's the painful thing. When you look at a situation and something can actually be done about it, but that those in a position to do something about it fail to, it is more painful than anything else. That there's something you could have done, that these policies could have been implemented. And then you ask, and then those who would want to be devil's advocate will say, well, how do you know they could? Okay, I'll give you a very good example. Oluga sat in this chair and told us, actually, these hospitals that we put in Nairobi, it was not our idea. These are things that have been sitting in the Ministry of Health for I don't know how long.
Yes.
So all we do is we took the policy and we then implement it.
It's games and games. There's a story on page 21 of the Standard today, and it's basically looking at what's happening. So this is the story of fishing and getting fish from the lake to people's plates in this country. Fishermen at the coast are unhappy because they're suffering alienation from fruits of their labor. They say they have nothing of their own, not even the little they fish they painstakingly catch in the ocean. They have told the Standard that they had been held captive by brokers who buy their fish at throwaway price, but make huge profits selling the same at international markets. Even worse, the brokers determine how much to pay for fish. What has happened? The government has come up with all these programs. The revival of industrial marine fishing will have projects such as the construction of a 1.8 billion shilling Liwatoni fish complex in Mombasa and a 20 billion shillings Shimoni fishing port in Kwale. All these things we've been talking about forever, Sindio. But the standard has established that the project is yet to start. This is a modern jetty expected to be starting. Offices will be refurbished, a yard, cold storage facilities, a fish market built. Construction of the 4.5 kilometer road providing access to Shimoni Port in Kwale has been completed, but the port itself yet to start. Why? No activity in the 3.8 hectares allocated to the Shimoni fishing port for the project. Nothing is happening on the ground. The concerned parties collected our views on the project, but we are yet to get their feedback, according to Mohammed Kasim, the secretary of the Wasini Beach Management Unit. The 520 million shillings, 250 million shillings community conservation area was built through support from international development organizations. They are not doing anything with it. In the 2021-2022 financial year, the government has set aside 1.8 billion shillings for the building of the Liwatoni Fish Complex landing site. On the 17th of April, the state unveiled a new contractor. After the tender awarded to Daniel's Outlets, a previous contractor, was terminated. Fisheries, Aquaculture and Blue Economy PS Dr. Francis Owino says the new contractor was chosen from 7 bidders and will have 6 months to complete and hand over the first phase of Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy project. Remember the Liwatoni story? It's been happening, it's been going on for so long.
Yes.
Now we have a new project contractor who's been given the job. The fishermen in Mombasa do not think the project will benefit them. The project is for industrial fishing, not for small-scale fishermen like us. We have no gears to venture into the deep sea. They have not been supported. We talked about this as well when we talked to the Jumuiya ya Counties of Pwani CEO. What are you doing to upskill the local fishermen? All these things we talk about. You ask yourself, so...
You know what is really the real tragedy of this, Eric? World Bank, EU, had money put aside for what you call the blue economy. Among the things you're supposed to do was train fishermen, provide these very facilities we're talking about, facilities including ships.
And the trawlers, yes.
And the trawlers. That, to date, some dinky type boats with some engine that sort of like sneezes every time it's supposed to move.
Some border engine.
Engine, yes. And we're not talking about the anything with any serious CC.
So these things are supposed to, if things were working the way they should, okay? We should have had the Liwatoni. We should have had this one in Kwale. We should have had the port.
In Lamu.
All working, the one in Lamu, all working in tandem. But beyond that, below that, the organization of the beach management units. So that the local fishermen know how to go to the ocean, come out, they have fish, they have cooling storages right here before it's then transported to Liwatoni, then make more money.
You know, Eric,
make it seamless.
I know of individuals who are enterprising enough, who have even put such projects into operation, where you have mobile refrigerated containers, meaning whose temperature you can control. But they even take it further, so that one knows that their wares are secure. Within it, you have a digitized process that even tells you about the weight of the product, so you know.
You know.
Camera facility that tells you, you can see
what's inside
it. So you know what's being transported, you know everything about it, all the details. Now, that is one way where the fishermen are guaranteed to get value for their product. Because they fish. But
and also you reduce losses.
Precisely. Now, do you hear of any county governor in the regions we've spoken about, whether it's a governor of Kwale, governor of Mombasa, governor of Lamu, governor of Kilifi, because all these counties have a seafront. Do you hear them beyond uttering the words blue economy?
It sounds intellectual.
Yes. Do you know of anything that has bettered the lives of the fisherfolk? If it hasn't, then it doesn't matter what else they tell you. Because if the fishermen haven't experienced a life-changing activity, my friend, that blue economy is just a conversation and nothing more.
You know, I'm sure if you actually spoke to them, if you spoke to the executives in these counties, or even to the Jumuiya counties of Pwani, or the Lake Region Development counties, if you sat them together, they'll tell you what they've been doing. If you sat officials from the World Bank, they'll also tell you, okay, we've been supporting and we've been seeing some movement. However, if all of them were to be honest, they'll tell you the frustration of the slow pace at which everything is happening.
Moving.
Because these are things that, are we all in agreement? Yes, let's move. They could happen very fast. But no. You see now this one has gone to the desk of the boss, or the desk of the boss, it now needs to be the summit of the county governors needs to meet, and then they discuss.
The Ministry of Fisheries and whatever else, and livestock and trees have also decided they're going to have a conversation about it.
Oh, KEBS should have come up with standards for what.
That's
it. Here we are. We are talking about a new contractor being identified in April this year for Liwatoni. A project that is supposed to be Uhuru's legacy project. That it's a project we started talking about in 2017 at the very latest. It was a conversation for much earlier.
If you look at the plans that are available for such projects, it began much earlier.
Of course.
All the feasibility and all that was required was done a
long time ago. The Uhuru government just came and said, okay, so this one we can move. Yes, we can move, Your Excellency. All right, let's move. We are looking for a new contractor now. Are we doing a port in Kwale? Yes, we can do the port in Kwale, Your Excellency. All right, let's move. Oh, Kwale, we have part of the budget, community, feasibility, environmental and social impact assessment.
Yeah.
Here we are.
And then, but also, we've brought in blue economy.
So then, maybe you should choose your leaders with wisdom and forethought. To be led by a coward is to be controlled by all the coward fears. To be led by a fool is to be led by the opportunists who control the fool. To be led by a thief is to offer up your most precious treasures to be stolen. To be led by a liar is to ask to be told lies. To be led by a tyrant is to sell yourself and those you love into slavery.
Power to the people. Power to the people. It's 99 days to the general election. We should use these 99 days to carefully vet who wants that position. Do they understand things?
And do they understand your plight? Do they actually know what it is that you're going through? This business of talking about solutions to problems they don't understand, will they really implement anything that will change your life or help you?
If they don't work, kwenda kabisa. We are talking about this, but we're also talking about now that the government is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Can we do the things that we need to do? Because children, their parents and their communities don't have access to water. Okay? So we need to come together, go buy Colgate, because you're going to buy Colgate anyway. Go buy Colgate and Naivas. When you buy Colgate and Naivas, 10 shillings out of that will go towards this particular project that Colgate and Well Boring have been running in the 7 counties, making sure that they sink 30 wells by the end of this calendar year. And that will benefit more than 120,000 people in various communities. This is a big thing that we need to do, and this is a big thing that we need to remember. Okay? Tell us finally about the selfies.
So, CT is taking selfies, and he's really looking forward to the fact that this is a holiday period and he can get to, snap all those wonderful pictures. And Samsung says, you know what? We can make it easier for you to do just that with this great snap awesome pictures and capture some great videos with the Galaxy's A33 camera, the A53, the A73 with 48 MP, 64 MP and 108 MP cameras respectively. Capture those moments because awesome is making an upgrade.
Tomorrow we'll tell you more about these cameras. Tomorrow we'll tell you more about these phones. Tomorrow we'll tell you how you can trade in your old phone to a new phone. Get this fantastic upgrade. Thank you very much for tuning into Kenya's biggest conversation. CT, say goodbye with the proverb.
When a monkey climbs a tree, its bottom becomes more exposed the higher it goes.
Doesn't it just?
So if it doesn't want its bottom exposed, don't
Stay
go
on the
high.
ground.
If you're a monkey, stop going up the tree.
Or if you don't want to see a monkey's bottom, don't look up.
Have a lovely day, folks. See you again tomorrow. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is Newswire. I am Stephanie Wangari. President Uhuru Kenyatta has sent a message of goodwill to Muslims across the country as they celebrate Eid al-Fitr. In his message, the president urged all Muslims to keep praying for the country ahead of the elections on August 9th. Muslims in Kenya are celebrating Eid today after a crescent moon, which signifies the end of Ramadan, was